Okay. All right. It is 7 o'clock. Good evening. I'm going to go ahead and call this regular meeting of the Portland Board of Education to order and invite everyone to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to see you all. We've got a great crew here this evening. I'm excited. Before we jump into our agenda, I just wanted to acknowledge that this is Stacy Benham's final meeting on the Board of Education. We looked at swearing in dates, and because of the calendar, our first November meeting isn't until November 18th. So Stacy, I just wanted to say thank you for your service to the Board of Ed, and it has been just a pleasure to serve alongside you, and we really are going to miss you.
Thank you. Thank you.
No.
I will still be involved. But
Good. Yes, please do. Stick around. All right. So is there oh no, okay, here we are. But I am looking for a motion to approve the agenda, but we do have some modifications to make. So let me just talk through these quickly. Under communications and updates 8B, instead of our Director of Student Services, we're going to hear a report from our Director of Teaching and Learning this evening. I imagine we'll hear from Director of Student Services at our November meeting. And under new business, I would like to add an item F, CABE Delegate Convention, for the selection of a delegate. And then under item D, the Policy Committee would like to remove item 4, Policy 5113.2, and item 8, Policy 6159. IEP policy. Those policies are going to get further consideration at the policy committee level, and then we'll come back to the board in the future. So we'll be renumbering the remainder of the first reads for the policies. So there'll be 6 policies for consideration. With those changes, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended tonight.
Thank you, Meg. Is there a second? A second. Seconded by Sarah. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Under our consent agenda, we only have special meeting minutes from our October 14th meeting. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Meg. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Kim. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Audience of citizens. Do we have anyone with us in person or online who wishes to address the board at this point in our agenda? Anyone online? Give it a second. There is another opportunity towards the end of our meeting to address the board. All right, we'll keep moving. We are very excited for our Portland Public Schools Spotlight to return this evening, and we are excited to welcome our Gildersleeve principal, Tracy Graff, to introduce Fall Fest.
Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. We're so excited to be in the spotlight and to showcase our Fall Fest, which we just had on Friday. I want to first thank the teachers that are here with me that refused to come up, but Camber Ostrander and Tony Ann Vankowski and Colleen Breed are not only part of our Fall Fest committee who helped to create all these activities and came early on a cold October morning on Friday to set up. They also worked with these guys to get them ready to present. As well as Amber had to fix up my slides because she said they needed zhuzhing, right, Amber? Yeah. So thank you. So without further ado, though, these are the stars of the show here. So I'll introduce them. They'll share a little bit, and then we just have a very quick presentation just so you can see a little bit about what happened on Friday. So we have Avery Benson, we have Emily Archer, we have I almost said Ava Walsh, sorry. We have Emily Archer, we have Brentley Graves. Oh my God, Chelsea, I'm sorry, Chelsea McDonald, Lee Graves and Michael Walsh. I'm sorry. They're gonna do a better job than I did. So go ahead. I'm gonna pass you the mic. Is that how we're doing it? Go backwards. You guys can come step towards me a little bit. All right.
Good evening. We're so excited to tell you about one of our favorite Gildersleeve traditions, our annual Fall Festival. It's one of those days where the whole school just feels happy. At Gildersleeve, we think it's really important for everyone to feel like they belong, students, teachers, and families. That's why we kick off the school year and the fall season with an event that brings us all together to have a little fun. Our teachers go all out planning creative fall themes, games, and activity things like pumpkin ring toss, gourd relay races, and even all arts and crafts. But the teachers have maybe gotten a little too competitive in the corn husking contest. My favorite station was the arts and craft. It was so much fun. Our families help make it all happen. They donate supplies from our wish list and volunteer their time to run the stations. Last year, when we had to say goodbye to our beloved tree in the courtyard, the third graders planted pumpkin seeds in the warm sunshine. This fall, we were able to pick a few pumpkins to use for Fall Fest decorations. And our community gets involved too. Gada's farm donated so many pumpkins, hay bales, and corn stalks that made everything look and feel so festive. We even had a giant great pumpkin.
The best part of Fall Fest? That would be a hard question to answer. Everyone has their favorite activity. Most importantly, we spent the whole time playing, competing, creating, and problem solving with zero screens. It's a special time to just enjoy being outside, moving, laughing, and working together, making memories that will last forever.
No matter what you're interested in, there's something for everyone. Arts and crafts, dance, competitive sports, silly games, and even a cozy reading nook. And the best part is when we get to choose the activities that we want to do when we want to do them. Oh, and we even had a visit from our first selectman, Mr. Pelton, aka Sensei. He brought boards for us to break and everything. And students from the PHS Honor Society came down from the high school to help us too. After Fall Fest, we were able to share the leftover corn and pumpkins and hay with our head custodian, Mr. Rubin, who has lots of his own farm animals. Plus, we donated some yummy morsels to the critters at Everland Sky from the farm in Portland that is run by a Gildersleeve School graduate. So even the animals got to enjoy Fall Fest. The Fall Festival is one of our favorite Gildersleeve traditions. It helps us feel connected, creative, and part of something special. Next year, we'll be sure to invite you. We love Fall Fest at Gildersleeve School, and we can't wait for Winterfest.
Thank you. Thank you. That was excellent, guys. So we did have, if you want to just turn to the screen really quick, just some picture highlights from the day so you can kind of get an idea of what we did.
Fall Fest! 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 Fall Fest!
Well, I saw the thing coming out of the sky. The one long horn, one big eye. Like a Mr. Shaking in the city. It looked like a whole people eating me. It was a one-eyed horn flying through the people. One-eyed horn flying through the people. It sure looks strange to me.
All right, Austin, let's see you there, buddy.
Was a one-eyed one flying through the people. The one-eyed one flying through the people. The one-eyed one flying through the people. Sure looks strange to me.
Can I write that? Where do I put this?
What happened to your shoe? What's it?
That's great. That was great. How fun. Board members, are there any questions for our students or for any of the teachers in attendance?
What were your favorite activities?
If any of you want to share your favorite activities, you're welcome to come up to the microphone and tell us. Yeah, come on up.
My favorite activity was when we were making the corns. There was like corns that you could make out of beans.
Fun.
There's it.
Oh. Cool. Avery, come on up to the microphone, sweetie.
My favorite activity was the corn shucking contest because the fourth graders may have liked it a little bit too much.
Did they shuck too many before you got out there, before the third grade got out there? They ate them.
My favorite Fall Fest activity was the arts and crafts. I made a paper pumpkin and a plastic pumpkin.
That's nice.
And Lily over there was one of our helpers that came down.
Oh, how wonderful.
My favorite session was the arts and crafts because I like doing crafts.
Nice. Excellent. Did everybody who wants to share get a chance to share? Huh? Any other questions for our student visitors? No?
That was great. I love how you had such a variety of activities, something for everybody, and kudos to all of you. All the hard work, like that's great.
It was so well done. There were just nothing but smiles. Everyone was having a great time, clearly. It's really fun.
Yeah. And Winterfest. Any plans for that?
Did do it last year. Now we have to. For spring fest, but that makes Mr. Carvio nervous. Field day.
Gotcha. Well, well done, everybody who was involved in putting that on. So much fun. Oh, Avery, did you have one final thought you wanted to share? Come on up, kiddo.
I think a lot of people like this one because all of the families got to come and enjoy Fall Fest too.
I think that's a really good point. There were so many parents who came to hang out. Some of them were signed up to be at different stations, and a lot of parents just showed up to hang out with their kids and be part of the fun. That's a really good point. It was really cool to see so many families hanging out together. Thank you all so much for coming in. You are more than welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting, but also it's absolutely okay if you need to get on with the rest of your evening.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so we are gonna move to the next item on our agenda. Next up, we have our student representative report, and we're so happy to have you both with us this evening. So I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Thank you. It's been a busy and exciting fall for all the music programs. The PHS band and chorus performed at several community events, including the football game at Runford Field in late September, the Portland Fair in early October, and most recently at the Wolfpack game this past Friday evening. Selected music students also represented Portland at the Shoreline Music Festival earlier this month. In other music news, this year's spring musical has officially been announced. It will be The Addams Family. Auditions were held today and will continue into tomorrow afternoon. On September 27th, the Student Senate transformed the PHS cafeteria into an autumn nights themed venue for the annual homecoming dance. This year's event welcomes a record number of students. Congratulations goes to Brody Quinn and Christina Austin, who won Homecoming King and Queen, and Tommy Gaetani and Lily Hale, who won Homecoming Prince and Princess. Looking ahead, new candidates for the National Honor Society were recently notified, and the induction ceremony is scheduled in the coming weeks. And also, students in the current National Honor Society attended Fall Fest to volunteer at the arts and crafts table. On October 15th and 16th, students in grade 9 and 11 participated in the PSAT testing days, helping prepare for future college and career readiness opportunities. And Liam is going to take it over for sports.
Yep. Fall sports are entering their final stretch of seasons. Senior nights have been celebrated. Volleyball was the 9th, girls soccer was the 15th, and boys soccer is actually tonight. Congratulations to all our senior athletes for their dedication and leadership. Oh, it doesn't say this, but cross countries is this Friday. Yesterday, 10 members of the AP Gov and Politics class worked with our 5th grade finalists for the Kid Governor program. The AP students then helped them create their platforms and flush it out. The platforms were already established, and they helped them finish their videos up. I believe that's all we have.
Thank you. Any questions for our student reps?
I'm just happy to see the governor is still well and alive. That's awesome.
Sure is. Liam, how many students were with you performing with the Shoreline Music Festival? I mean, how many Portland students went down to perform? Ballpark.
It was 5 or 6 of us.
Excellent. That's great. And are both of you going to be involved with the musical again this year?
Yes, I had my audition today, actually.
Excellent. How'd it go?
It went well.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Wonderful. That's so fun. Any questions? Comments? Nope. Thank you. All right. Thank you both for your reports. We will move on to communications and updates. Dr. Britton.
Thank you. Full communications, just wanted to, these are included in your packet. Amy Soa, one of our paraprofessionals at Valley, has resigned. Wish Amy all the best as she goes on. Pursue other endeavors, and also Sue Webb, our administrative assistant at Brownstone, has resigned. So both of those letters of resignation are in your folder. Both positions have already been filled. So wish both Amy and Sue well. And also I did include the most recent enrollment report. You see that we are at 1,202 students. Last year at this time we were at 1,221. You see how it sort of ebbs and flows down a little bit, but the only really thing that jumps out at me is kindergarten numbers came in at 80, right? So a little lower than normal for kindergarten, but otherwise, any questions about either of the resignations or the enrollment? Okay, couple of things I want to also update you on. So, we had our special meeting last week because of a sewage spill in the building. I didn't talk about it last week because it wasn't on the agenda, but I did just want to bring it up tonight. It was not great, right? It was pretty gross. Definitely every time that I've both dismissed schools early and otherwise call a closure, unless it's like a can't miss blizzard, but there's always like a little voice in the back of my mind that's like, is there anything else? Are you making the right decision? When I kind of walked in the building that day, it was like the easiest call I've ever made. There was no way we could both sending students home and then making a decision about the next day. I need to really give a shout out to Bob, our entire team. They came right together. They jumped right on to fix it. The Portland Public Works was here working hard with us, and our friends across the river, Middletown Water and Sewer came over and really bailed us out. They brought over their $1 million equipment, stuff that Portland doesn't have. It's great to have that relationship with them, that mutual aid that goes back and forth. But that was a really tough situation. It was handled as quickly as it could be because so many excellent people were working on it. I can't say enough nice things about Bob, Portland Public Works, and our friends in Milford, and the whole team that got together to fix it. And it is fixed now, thank goodness. So really sorry that happened. We're going to talk a little bit later in the agenda about what we need to do now in terms of the day that we lost at the secondary school. So I would be happy to answer any questions as best I could about that leak, which wasn't at all pleasant, but it's over and hopefully we won't have it happen again.
Well, I'm just curious of what was the cause of this all of a sudden and what's it from preventing it from happening again?
Okay, so what happened was literally about 150, 200 yards from here. I didn't, I said, what do I know about where pipes go? Right? There's a sewage line that goes out to the front. There's two lines. There's one that's gravity fed, so it all goes where gravity can do its work. And otherwise there's a grinder pump that works on parts of the building that has to move the stuff, right? All the way down in front, closer to Valley View than the high school is where the clog happened, right? The problem is that we literally couldn't find the manhole covers because one manhole cover, it looks like it's in the backyard of a neighbor here. It's actually our property, but the neighbor had been putting all kinds of debris and stuff, like when you clear out your yard and push everything back. The manhole cover was under about 5 feet of brush and buildup that the neighbor had piled on top of the manhole cover, and literally they had to get metal detectors to find it, right? And then the second one they couldn't find was in the middle of the field, about 3/4 of the way down the hill towards Valley. That's where the clog was. So you can imagine how far it backed up to get to the high school. And, all of that was clogged, right? It was all there. So when they brought over the $1 million equipment from Middletown, we had to find the manhole covers, send the stuff down there with the cameras to find the leak. And then once they found the leak, send in the machinery to vacuum it out. And then not only vacuum it, but then they brought in this like high pressure water hoses to blast it through because they had to clear the leak. It's cleared out, right? I mean, Bob's suspicion is that leak has been building up for many, many years, if not decades. The clog has been backing up. It's just a bunch of stuff, right? Things that maybe shouldn't be flushed down toilets that are just over time it built up. So that's where it happened. It wasn't anywhere that we could clear out really close to the building. We had to go down all the way down. That's what took so long. That both locate the manhole covers, find the space where it clogged, and then clear it.
Does that line tie into Valley View at all? In any part of the building down there?
I mean, I imagine it all goes down that way. In terms of where it ties into Valley View, I'm sure at some point it all kind of connects up and goes to
some main sewer
to some
line.
sewer lines. But Valley View's not pumping up the hill. We're going down.
Right, everything's going down. Well,
How about
keep in
damage
mind-
to the building?
No damage to the building. It was just about unclogging.
And then replacing some mats, and my
Yeah,
understanding, correct?
Yes, they're like the doormats here.
Hmm.
for walking around.
Chatham Health provided some
Yes.
consultation and looked around and provided input to Charles about what needed to be tossed. Yeah.
We had professionally sanitized and cleaned. Did it all in 24 hours. Like that's how fast folks were on this and working, fixing and then remediating the issue.
So it might be a good thing to keep in mind as we, talk about Valley View and the changes that will come out down there. Just that, that line may tie in, it might go through might go through the playground or whatever in the back of the building. I mean, I guess we don't know where that pipe goes from there, so that might be an interesting, just as a kind of note to.
Yeah, I mean, I know that water and sewer is a big conversation in town.
Yes, it is.
It's it's all part of it.
Right.
It's all part. in terms of preventative maintenance going forward, I think what would be most helpful if people didn't flush anything down toilets except those things that should be flushed down toilets. I saw what was pulled out of there and it's the thing of nightmares, literally, but, yeah, I don't know how to get people not to.
Yeah.
Flush the wrong things down toilets and it wasn't just like a little, I mean, it's many, many, many years of building up in pipes.
So technical question, you described that there's two different branches that take sewage away from the building. If there was a backup in one of the paths, is there a concern that there could be a backup in the other path too that we should?
It's all been checked now.
It's all been
Yeah,
checked.
and
Great.
that what Middletown brought over was pretty amazing. It's there, it was a van, but they sent down cameras, right? So all of the pipes have been, scoped and cameraed and both
Great.
identified, issues have been identified, remediated through vacuuming and blasting water into it. Right now, I think we will not have this problem again. 20 years from now, it'll build up again, but right now, those pipes are clear.
Okay, good.
Well, that's good news.
Is there preventative monitoring that needs to take place of that and the perimeter as well? And is that something Bob's planning on?
Let me talk to Bob about that. I don't know. I don't know that we budget for once every 5 years sending cameras down or something. I imagine there probably is a system of preventative care that like a schedule, every 5 years you should do these things. With this
Maybe reviewing the
experience.
perimeters of the properties, that kind of thing.
It's a good question, but I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's some kind of schedule of preventative care for your sewage system, plumbing system that I just don't know right now. Bob isn't here now. Okay, so that was I'm really sorry that happened, but I'm glad we got it taken care of so quickly. Second one, this is another piece of maybe not so great news. So we did get an email. As you know, we've been hoping it was good news that all of the pieces for the boiler at Brownstone have been coming in. They're in warehouses and they're showing up, right? We did get one bad news. I'll read it to you. This is from one of the people who is assembling the boiler. It says, "Good afternoon. We're waiting on iron for this order as well as jacket and trim." Okay, so iron, jackets, trims. I can't tell you in great specifications what those things do, but I imagine they hold the boiler together, right? Like the iron that pieces it all together and jackets and trim, I imagine are those things that put a giant boiler together.
Yeah.
It said, we are still at the very least 4 weeks away on this order. Did get that email October 16th. So if you do your math, that puts us out into the middle of November. And that says the very least. So heightened anxiety on this one. Brownstone's still warm, but let's not forget it's warm because it's running on one boiler, right? And that one boiler is the same age, make, and model as the one that failed, right? So pray that as it gets colder and the building is heated, that boiler holds up until we get the iron jackets and trims and all the scaffolding in both of those boilers replaced. They don't know it yet, but I'm going to be meeting with the leadership team to come up with a backup plan, right? Like what happens if that second boiler fails at any point and it gets cold, right? At that point, I'm not interested in doing what we did with the secondary school, which is just closing the secondary school, because it won't just be a day or two. It could be a matter of weeks. So we need, and I don't want to be figuring this out on a Sunday afternoon when the boiler fails and the buses are about to go. We're going to have a plan now, right, for what we do. Right off the top of my head, it's 6th grade to the middle school. We create space at the middle school. 5th grade to Gildersleeve. We create space at Gildersleeve for that to happen until it's remediated. The details of that, Joe, Tracy, and I and Mike are going to talk about that. We know there's enough room here at the middle school. It would just be about being creative with how we might support 6th grade for a short period of time while we get the jackets and boilers and everything fixed. And then, of course, Gildersleeve, we know the 5th grade class is smaller. There's 4 sections of it. We could find 4 spaces and then create a temporary schedule. So I'm gonna have a backup plan, I promise. It just wouldn't be a great emergency notification that said, hey, instead of dropping your kids off at Brownstone, sixth graders are gonna be dropped off at the middle school.
Yeah.
Fifth graders will be dropped off at Gillis. That's not what is gonna happen, but it's redundancies and thinking ahead about this. Now that we know we're 4 weeks behind is a good idea, and I'm working on it.
And can I just add before you ask your question, just a caveat that this would be a very temporary solution. To be clear, to move 4 fifth grade classrooms back to Gildersleeve will mean pulling other special teachers, special ed teachers out of their spaces and putting them on carts. This is not a permanent solution. There is not space for a permanent solution to locate 4 classes there.
Right.
This would be like on an emergency
Yeah, it would be
basis. So I just want to
highly
be clear.
and not ideal at all.
Yeah.
For us to have to do this.
Yeah.
And it would, it's not the way we want to do things, but I'm just saying that because of this, I think it's smart to plan for that contingency if that second boiler goes down. So we're not figuring it out as an emergency in real time.
So my question, we get the components that we don't have on the November 16th. What's the time frame for putting this and assembling this boiler together and making sure that it's operable? Is it really December the 1st? Is it a
It's
couple
as
of weeks?
quickly as possible. Yeah, as soon as, I think what we're waiting for that is, the equipment,
Right.
the supply line has to run to deliver. Remember, this is an old boiler. This isn't,
Yeah.
this thing is essentially custom made, right? Was part of Bob's concern months ago when he says it's gonna take 6 months for
He did.
Yeah,
this
he
thing to
was
be
not
built,
wrong.
right?
Yeah.
He was very worried. It's not like it's an off the shelf thing that we can just grab. It's built in a factory somewhere because it's a very old piece of equipment. And Bob was very much worried about just this thing because all the supply lines have to work. Right? And now we're down to iron jackets trim. As soon as it's all staged and in a warehouse nearby, the crews are ready to go. We'll put up the scaffolding and do it. It's just that, that now is at least the middle of November.
And these are
I'm more
contingency-
concerned that you're getting an email. Somebody should be having a daily phone call.
Yeah.
Where are we? Where's the part? Who's chasing them? Who's expediting? Who's doing what? I don't think that's getting done, quite honestly.
Yeah, I know Bob is.
Yeah, Bob would be-
He's
Why would you have an email? Wouldn't Bob tell you 2 weeks ago that stuff is 4 weeks behind?
this was last week. We got this and he let me know right away and he's on the phone with them.
Then shame on somebody that we didn't know that something's 4 weeks behind until the day they let us know. Something is broken with this process.
Yeah, let me be honest. If I wish Bob were here to explain in greater detail what I know he's on top of this. Like he is very much getting regular updates, working with the contractors and aware of this. I don't think if he were here, he would tell you. And I don't want to speak for Bob, but I'll channel him. I'm not surprised.
Right.
This was a very complicated piece of equipment that even 6 months ago, he was warning us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's why he jumped right on it and said, get this funding supplemental and get going with the order because this isn't an off the shelf thing. It has to be manufactured, disassembled, put on trucks, set here, stage. It's a very complicated operation. Now, that we've gotten this far and we're down to this, I think is probably a sign of Bob's due diligence. But I think if Bob were here, he'd be like, yeah, I was worried then and I'm still worried now. It's a lot of moving parts that have to come together to get us to the point where these things can be installed before the cold weather's here.
And
So
let's be
the
clear
other-
from the very beginning too, that Bob was from the very beginning doing the math out that however many
He did.
number of weeks he was saying, this is gonna be in November, bumping into cold weather, best case scenario.
I'm
Hear
sure
that.
Bob's doing a great job. I'm just saying in this day and age with the technology we have, that if this part isn't on its way, someone should be able to say, when is it going to ship? When is it going to be manufactured? Whatever, that we can tie back to that timeline. These kind of surprises in this day and age shouldn't be acceptable.
Yeah.
I just know that the other contingency plan that we talked about was having an external boiler and connected so that kids wouldn't have to be moved out of the building and that would be rented for a period of time until
That's
the
true.
components
That's true,
came
yeah,
in.
right.
And that is, that's something that we talked about. It's, I think $130, $133 a day or something.
That's right, Nick. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
That-
because that was the other factor that we could actually heat the building externally for a short period of time.
And I'm
Well, look,
sorry,
I
you
thi-
may have said this already. Did they indicate how long it would take from the day they bring in the scaffolding, yanking it out? Is it 2 days?
Well,
a
that's
week,
what I
2
asked.
weeks?
I don't have,
Get it
I
done.
know it's not more than a week. It's, it will go pretty quick. It's just about getting the boiler. And then, it's a big, huge piece of equipment that needs scaffolding to be
Right.
lowered in.
They have to take out the old one and then bring the new one in, all the pieces.
Right. So, things are moving.
Yeah.
Right? We're going as quick as we can. The current boiler is working, brownstone is warm. And we're gonna hope that between a combination of Mother Nature being good to us and it staying relatively warm, and that current boiler working, that all works for the next 6 weeks, right? And that this stuff gets here and we get it in late November, which isn't too far off the timeline Bob was talking about.
No, it's
Right.
kind of right on the timeline he was
Right.
talking about.
And that it is, then 2 brand new boilers are heating that building and it all works in perfect symphony. But this is definitely a little bit of a, uh-oh moment. We're very much doing everything we can.
Also, a reminder to parents to send their kids in without, wear socks and long sleeve shirts or sweaters or whatever.
It's still a million degrees in that building.
Yeah, it's warm there.
It is when it's
According to my 5th grader, they're still warm.
Yeah, they're warm. We won't let them be cold.
good. But sometimes kids come with t-shirts and shorts and.
All right, let me keep moving. I got a couple of other ones that I want to bring you up to speed on. So the topic here is planning for our facilities, right? Like what we're doing now and is happening in real time here as we move very quickly to start putting the plans and data together we need to move towards, again, if all goes well, a spring bonding round. So last week, Laurel, Mike Pelton, Tom Robinson, Stephanie, Bob, and I met, right? And to talk about all the things we need to do, get going. And it was a very, I want to say, helpful, I thought, and productive meeting. And I really want to say thank you to Tom and Mike. Here's what their plan is, right? Tomorrow night, the Board of Selectmen meeting. The Board of Selectmen is gonna be asked to approve a resolution to allocate $85,000 out of the town can supplement or contingency fund, town fund balance for this project. That $85,000 would be 39,000 the whole for prior architecture, the 2,100 for Peter Powder's demographic study, and the amount we need to pay bond counsel, and the amount we need to pay David Eisenthal, the town's financial planner, to put together the amortization and bonding schedule, right? So tomorrow night, Board of Selectmen will be asked to take action on a resolution to allocate $85,000 out of fund balance to do all of these things. That will then move to a November 5th town meeting, right? So we need to get out and let folks know at that town meeting, we should go out and have our people to vote, right? If either the Board of Selectmen doesn't allocate those funds, or it doesn't prevail at the November 5th town meeting, we are dead in the water. Right? At that point, planning stops for this year. We would have to build it into next year's LEA budget and get back at it in the fall, right? Because what's most important in this process is an architect at the table working with a construction company to give us the conceptual order of magnitude budget, right? So hopefully, Board of Selectmen will, and I'll be there tomorrow night to inform that conversation, have a discussion about applying that funds, what it's for. It will get to town meeting on the 5th, and by the 6th, we'll have the funding for the architect, demographic study, bond counsel, and the financial plan. We stop there and say if there are any questions about that.
I don't make an assumption, but those 2 gentlemen, the bond counsel and the financial planners, someone putting together what we've talked about at length of saying, what is our eventual revenue stream going to look like over 10, 15, 20 years? And what is the mill rate gonna look like over 10, 15, 20, 30 years? Because that's what people want to know. We keep talking about the spa, the Brainerd Place, yada, 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 but nobody's ever put numbers to paper.
Right, that is, I believe, not part of this 85,000. Now, what David Eisenthal will give is the schedule, like, if you borrow X amount at this interest rate here, and then, of course, I'll put on there those things that are retiring for, like, how it affects your entire debt service, right? And then and it also includes the mill rate impact, right? I don't think what the financial planner will do is say that mill rate impact is offset by new tax revenue from Brainerd Place or Cars or Nordic Spa.
Hmm.
That the financial planner just gives the straight math.
If we don't have that, then I say we shouldn't proceed anyways. Because
Yeah.
nobody's gonna want everybody wants the numbers.
Right.
We haven't got numbers, let's just move on.
I think it's a really good point that work of a financial planner, whether it's this, what's the name of the committee in the town that's working? The
POCD.
Plan of Conservation,
POCD.
Right.
Contribution.
how fast that group is working on this and whether
It's
that,
It's gotta be done by March. It has to be finished and complete, and they're already behind. They're scrambling to get it done.
and is that, what Dave is asking, I think, is, are those forecasts of net grand list growth being done as part of that?
I don't know. I was on the implementer committee and I can let, you know, because I don't know that if they do.
I mean, even if this financial plan says, hey, for extra fee, I can do Y, hey, let's go down that path.
I don't disagree with you at all, Dave. I think it's essential data, you know.
Yeah.
Whether that costs of that is included in this 85,000, I don't think it is. But should that work be done?
Should.
Definitely was a recommendation from the strategic planning committee.
Mhm.
Part two of this is I spoke with Mike Serrano and Bryce this week. They're very excited to continue working with us. And I laid out the timeline for them. That my hope is that, you know, by Thanksgiving, we have from them conceptual order of magnitude budget, education specifications plan, blocking diagram, 3D models. They said that yes, they could get that done and they're willing to do it. I don't want to wait until November 6th. I want to get going next week. They're willing to work with us now. And Stephanie and Tom have worked out a way to do a change order with them, so we'll pay them $8,000 on their $39,000 contract now, so they
Make
can,
that work now.
so they can work with us from now until November 6th. Assuming things go well, November 6th, the balance $31,000. That's just a change order in how they have set up. So we're gonna do that. They are shortly on the agenda, we're gonna be talking about this education specifications task force. Let's get that committee going, and I think we need to meet next week, early next week, with Mike and Bryce to talk about this and give them a direction. Right, and let's hold that part of the conversation till we get to that on the agenda. But the good news is our architects are ready to go. And then the last part is I spoke with Peter Prouda today and said, Peter, I need the demographic projections by the middle of November. He sort of went, oof, that's a very ambitious timeline, Charles. And I said, yes, Peter, what can you do for me? And he was very funny. He said, well, golf season's over. So with that, he signaled to me that he could do this and that he would be able to get us those numbers by November. We then talked about ensuring our birth to 3 numbers, pre-K numbers are dialed in. Gave me a thumbs up on that. We talked about Brainerd Place. That's way more complicated, but he can help us also with those things. So I got everything lined up. We just need to now get going. So we've got the Board of Selectmen meeting, talk about it tomorrow night. If that goes well, to town meeting November 5th. Architects are ready to go. Peter Powder going on the demographic study. It's an ambitious timeline, but I think if we get this task force formed up, which we're going to talk about later, meeting and going by Thanksgiving, I think we can have some good plans to share, which then have to work through a bunch of processes on the town side with bond counsel and financial planners and that type of thing. But you know, I still think if we work quickly, we can meet the timeline suggested by the strategic plans. That was a lot.
Thank you for jumping right on it.
I don't want to wait another year. Yep.
On
Okay,
November the fifth?
Yeah.
Oh, for the town meeting, you're saying? Enjoy.
All right, so more to come on that with that item that we're gonna talk about under new business. And then the last one I have, in addition to talking with Tom and Mike Pelton, I shared the board's request that we have a bid waiver for the transportation contract. Tom Robinson took a look at the tentative proposal, and was a little concerned about pulling out the rent for the lot. Right, he was a little concerned about that because of precedent it might set in the town if words out that, hey, we pay your rent now. He would prefer that we instead include that money as an extra $12.50 a bus in the daily rate for the buses. We know that once you put it there, then it's subject to the compounding interest over the life of the contract. But long and the short of it is, Tom and Mike, we're gonna put together a resolution for a bid waiver. We're gonna present it to the Board of Selectmen. I will go to the Board of Selectmen and explain the entire tentative agreement, including the lot, right? And I'll explain that the lot is important for two reasons. One, it either saves us $2,000 a month or $12.50 a bus run, which it's just money where it comes from, if the town can provide that lot. But two, it's really important to keep on our radar, because if this electrification for buses requirement is still a go by December or by
January
2030, we really need a town space to have the infrastructure to charge buses. Because I don't think a private landowner is gonna be willing to put those charging stations on their private property to charge buses without a very long-term commitment, that that's what the space would be used for. So, it's both, there's an urgency to it in the sense that there's an immediate savings if we can find a town parcel for this purpose, and long-term builds the capacity, whether it's 2030 or anytime there beyond, for a space to support infrastructure for what might be a legal requirement. I'll explain all of that to the Board of Selectmen and make the case for the bid waiver you authorized me last week or so.
It likely won't be on a Board of Selectmen agenda until later in November or December.
Yeah, and this isn't we have to get it done now. If the contract we have now goes to June 30th, we'll use those rates to budget as we head into November. If we talk about this in December, January, that will.
Charles, will the bid waiver include, will it get into the details of putting the $12.50 back in the daily rate?
Yes, I'll show the Board of Selectmen that you can either have it one of two ways. You can either commit to paying $2,000 a month through the rent, or $2,000 a month equates to $12.50 per bus on a 181-day run. It's there. It's $2,000 a month. That's either subject, if the town can find a parcel of land for a bus yard, you could save that either from the eliminating, if we go the rent route, 2,000 rent, or put a simple clause in the contract that says, if we provide you a rent-free bus yard, you will reduce your daily rate by $12.50 per bus per day.
So the bid waiver is approving that specific.
Right.
Term. Okay.
Yes. A lot. Sorry.
So it's been a busy few weeks. Any other questions about the bid waiver?
Just a question about the lot size that you're looking for. I mean, X amount of buses.
Yeah, 8 buses, 2 minibuses, and minivans,
And a trailer.
and a trailer.
But it does have specific requirements that, Tom did point out that, there was a kind of a narrow. It narrows down what will work because of some of the needs for electrification and.
Right, understood.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I just wondered if, yeah, so, okay.
and Bob did point out also that the type of electrification that's required for powering buses, which is part of what we'd be looking forward towards, is significant, that you couldn't just stick that anywhere in town.
No.
That, relies on.
High voltage.
Yeah,
It has to have the infrastructure around it.
right.
You do.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
But
certainly.
it's a big mandate.
Yeah, no, it is.
And a lot of superintendents are
Oh,
aware of it and advocating to have it extended or be able to get
oh,
waived.
don't go away. Like I said to you, there's too many agencies right now that are involved in this, that, everybody's got a little piece, and nobody's wishing this goes away, but they're also not wishing that we have to do it. It's a lot.
By 2030.
Yeah, by 2030.
Yep. All right. Any other questions for Charles about any of his updates? No, thank you, Charles. All right, we are going to move to our next item. We have our Director of Teaching and Learning. Good evening, Chuck.
Good evening.
Hi there.
Promise you guys, personally, I would keep these short, so I'm not gonna go through all of the items on the monthly report, especially because I'll be presenting my school improvement plan tonight. And many of those, the report kind of mirrors that improvement plan. Just want to highlight a couple things that we were able to do this past month that were exciting. One, at Portland High School, they've gotten started with our tier 2 intervention programs for math and ELA, and really tying in science and social studies as well. Those have been occurring during Flex. I'll be taking a group, all of the MTSS coordinators with me to Syracuse next week as we go to the RTI at Work conference, continuing to align our practices towards that process. I'll be bringing that group back here either in December or January to report out to you about kind of the continued work of aligning our kind of district protocols for making sure we're meeting the needs of all students. Under culture and climate, we had our first Portland Public Schools Climate Coalition meeting. This is something that our Equity and Inclusion Coalition has shifted towards, especially under the benefit of being able to align to the new climate legislation. Another benefit of it is that we had all of the school climate specialists there, and it really turned into a working kind of addressing the school climate plans and development and looking at problems of practice. This past month, we talked a lot about how tier 1 SEL instruction is delivered and the different programs that are used for that. Both Sarah McLaughlin and I are going to be collaborating with our SEL specialists, our social workers, our counselors during the November PD day to continue to look at that K-12 coherence for that SEL curriculum. I promised, Dave, you'd asked about this. I promised I'd be giving you some attendance monitoring data each month when I come to report. I can report that our September report is in from the state. We have, as a district, chronic absence of 9.5%. This is pretty in line with what our numbers have been in past years. Our Valley View, we're at 9.2%. Gildersleeve School, 7.2%. Biz 8.1%, the middle school 9%, and the high school 12.7%. Again, these are all typically in line with where those schools have been. And chronic absenteeism is indicated as missing 10% of the school year. So the report indicated of 23 days. If you had missed 3 days, you were identified as chronically absent. So that's kind of what that's reporting out on. Yes, Dave.
Yeah, just like the enrollment in the special education, I'd like to see something like on paper, like
Yes.
quarterly by section, by school, and compared to last year.
I can email that in compared to last year. Okay.
I think the whole board should see it.
I can email that. I'll email that to Tricia to send out to the entire board. I did make an updated version of what you have tonight because I was going to present back at the canceled board meeting the first week of October. I've updated with the data, so I can send the updated version to Tricia to pass around to the whole board to include those numbers.
Thanks. Yeah, I like the enrollment. I look at it, okay, we're down 2% now from last year.
Right.
Numbers matter to me, what the difference is. Are we improving? We staying the same or getting worse? And you don't measure anything unless you can't manage anything unless you're measuring it.
Right. I understand. Like I said, I'm trying to implement a process we haven't had before of giving you guys that monthly report. So
Looking forward to it.
do
Thanks.
so. And then finally, we had our districts involved in an AI consortium this year that we're kind of collaborating with districts across the state to further our AI practices as we work to kind of come to grips with the changes that are happening with artificial intelligence and how it's going to impact us, our teachers and our students. Dr. Britton, myself, Ms. McLaughlin, and Iden, one of our IT specialists, were there this past Friday going through some special education specific policies and how to tackle this as we start to look at this as a district. On the 28th, our district's AI steering committee will have our first meeting to talk about how we're going to put some protocols in place for both teachers and students as we go forward into this year. That's everything I wanted to highlight. Any questions you had about the report, though? happy to talk about any of the points that are on there.
Chuck, any questions?
All right, I'll see you all again in a minute.
Any, thank you, Chuck. All right. So we are gonna move on to new business. And first item of new business, Chuck has told me I'm not allowed to call them taco plans anymore. We're gonna refer to them as our school improvement plans from here on out. So we're gonna look at our Portland Middle School improvement plan first. So happy to have Mr. Searson here this evening. And you know, we worked well when we were looking at our elementary reports a month ago now. It's been, well, however long ago it was. It's been a few weeks. If you want to just kind of, you know, give us an overview, anything you want to highlight. And then we can ask questions.
Perfect. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So the process of this school improvement plan, it feels like it was in a couple different tiers. So Chuck obviously started this process last spring, got input from his staff at that time. He and I went through it when we started this transition process for me going in the middle school. And then I was able to have conversations with staff members late in the school year last year, going into this year, and then really kind of finalize it with a lot of their input this fall. So I'll just kind of break it down in terms of some highlights per section. So for talent, it really comes down to just consistent and constant communication. We have 3 new certified hires. We want to make sure that they are involved in what's going on in school. But second part of this is we want to make sure that we're in the second year of our TVAL system and everybody is clear on not only just expectations, but like my role to support them, right? We want to make sure that we're saying, okay, this goal is for you as much as it is for students. So what's something you're going to be passionate about and where can I support you in that? And then what also came out of the conversations I had with staff is ensuring that we are kind of going out of our way to actually celebrate staff as well and looking for opportunities to do that, which is something that we've already started. In terms of the academic portion, I would say the biggest focus this year, based on data from last year, but also ongoing conversations and input from staff members, is making sure that our MTSS, our intervention systems, are realistic. And what I mean by that is how we're collecting the data doesn't feel like it's a massive lift for the teachers, but it's also based solely in where do we need the kids to be and how are we going to get them there? And if they're not there, who are those kids and what are we going to do now? Okay. Making sure that those meetings are continued to be focused, just like they were last year when Chuck was implementing this as well. The benefit now is that I'm coming in with a full-time math interventionist, which is something that the Portland Middle School did not have, which has been an incredible resource. And then beyond that, our biggest press is we started the process of looking at a new math curriculum last year. Going into this year, we've been working closely, not just with the math team and our new math interventionist, but also with Chuck to make sure that we're all on the same page as a math team in terms of instructional practices and what's going to work best for our kids, but also understanding the fact that we are going to be implementing a new math curriculum and we have to do our due diligence in terms of looking at what's going to fit best in Portland and then actually going out and seeing that. So we're kind of in the process of, we sat down with Chuck the first 2-hour delay, right? And sifted through quite a few different options for math curriculum that are out there that are all rated in the way that we needed and wanted to be rated for our kids and our staff. Narrowed it down to about 4. And now we are going to figure out where we can go, actually observe that, and then debrief with those teachers who have been teaching that and have experience with that. In terms of climate, I would say the biggest 2 things that we are looking at and constantly talking about at the middle school is climate initiative and just making sure that everybody's aware of that. But then also what we're doing with our behavior leadership and how we're utilizing getting together every 2 weeks to ensure that ways in which that we as a staff are providing resources and strategies for our kids. We love our middle schoolers. Won't come as a shock that they're not perfect, right? So we need to make sure that when they do make those mistakes, we're not just addressing it on the go. We actually have proactive along with reactive strategies in place. And like I said, that's something that we've been doing every 2 weeks. New in terms of just the structure, but not new in terms of what we want to focus on with our kids being respectful and engaging in their learning. And then the fourth section, when we talk about operations, the two biggest things is, and Chuck just started hitting on this, and I'm sure you hear this in all of our school improvement plans. It's continuing our focus in making sure that we are not only discussing and looking at the data, but then addressing any sort of chronic absenteeism. That just comes down to ensuring that certain people know exactly what they're doing, what the numbers are, when we meet, and then what are the actual follow-ups and steps in place in terms of getting the families involved or how we can support them. And then the last thing for operations, we initiated a new virtual pass system. This really came out of conversations with the teachers and just looking for new ways where we wanted to, give middle schoolers the not just responsibility, but give them the freedom to make their own decisions, but also make sure that we're monitoring it in a way that is realistic, easy, and modern, so that it doesn't mean that, we have to worry about carrying around a paper pass that's going to rip and end up getting lost in a day. So those are, you're going to see more info in there, but those are really, I would say, the two main things from each of the four aspects of our school improvement plan.
I have a question about the reward system.
Yeah.
Kid who doesn't get rewards, that doesn't earn them, I mean, is this kind of universal and people are aware of behaviors that might keep somebody from being? I'm a little leery about reward systems because the kids who can figure out how to do it will do it.
That's a great question, Meg.
Kids that can't.
Yeah,
won't,
that's a really good question. So I was really proud of the way in which our staff kind of focused on this. The first thing we did is for about the first 5 or 6 weeks of the year, we said this to the kids, like, we are only focusing on shouting out positive things, right?
Mhm.
Until we have a reason that we need to kind of go back and start to talk about, okay, here's what we're worrying about. And we had the conversation during behavior leadership and then a broader conversation during our staff meeting where it was like, okay, when we do talk about these inevitable behaviors that happen, are we going to start like taking points away? And to their credit, the staff was pretty much unanimous about the fact that no, they've earned those points. Let's not take them away. But what this does is this gives us a way when we do meet every 2 weeks to be like, okay, we're noticing a lot of disruption in the classroom. How do we want to address that as a team? So it's not taking away from the kids' ability to kind of earn those rewards. And even when we started to focus on some of those behaviors, our biggest push as a staff was like, this doesn't mean we're now looking for them. We're still trying to push the positive.
I guess the other thing is to identify those behaviors that do seem to be general across all classes and all grades.
Yeah.
And to, look at the root problem. If there is something that's mitigating.
Without a doubt.
Behavior.
And it's also, you gotta keep it simple, everybody's gonna make mistakes. And if you have 3 positive things that you're looking for and 13 negative things that you're looking for, obviously you're gonna find the negative. So we kept it very simple. Right now here are, I think, 2 behaviors that we're starting to see, and here are 4 positive things that we're still trying to push.
The rewards points are gathered and then
they can just kind of choose to cash in and redeem with their teachers, and then they'll go on a spreadsheet and they can cash it in on certain dates.
Sounds good. What are they cashing them in for?
Right now, so we gave obviously staff a chance to say, okay, here are some ideas that they have. Then we give students a chance. They had some wonderful ideas. They had some very unrealistic ideas. So right now there's 4 different things that they can cash in for. They can cash in to have lunch with 2 of their friends in the conference room and watch Netflix. They can have lunch outside with a friend. They can choose to be a guest presenter on the morning announcements, and they can choose a separate flex for a day.
That sounds like good rewards. All right.
Other questions for Mike?
It's just a small one, but under culture and climate, under the first objective, you've got an asterisk under that third action step, and I just wondered, was there like more info that you wanted to provide on that? Or?
Is that
Is that-
the
The annual
annual
survey.
climate improvement, Sarah? I think the asterisk is there because I'm not sure. I wasn't sure if I had that in them when I originally sent that to Chuck. That was the only thing. Yeah.
Any other questions? No? All right. Thank you, Mike.
All right, thank you.
All right, we're gonna move to the high school plan next, and we've got Kate Lawson here to talk us through it. Good evening, board members. Good evening.
You will find, when you look at the high school improvement plan, a lot of similarities to the NEASC priority areas for growth. As a reminder for the board, we are midway through the 2-year period between our collaborative conference visit, which was in October of last year, and our decennial accreditation visit, which is scheduled for the first week in October 2026. So coming out of that collaborative conference, there were 3 priority areas for growth that you will see reflected in this school improvement plan. One is developing and enhancing the MTSS support and intervention program at the high school. The other is making sure that our curriculum is consistent across all areas in all departments for all courses. That was a priority area for growth. It is one that we were about 90% of the way there when they came the first time. So it's really looking at the curricula in new courses and in courses that are undergoing revisions. Several AP courses have done that in the past few years through College Board. And then the third one is aligning our curriculum to our vision of the graduate. And that's probably the heaviest lift. And actualizing the vision of the graduate, not only through the curriculum, but also in reporting student progress on the vision of the graduate, both individually and on the macro level, as a school. And you'll hear me speak a little bit about that with some of the community parts of our vision that we're trying to enact district-wide a little later in the meeting. Talent goal is pretty straightforward. We are becoming an extraordinarily diverse high school faculty in terms of years of experience. I have 12 non-tenured teachers in this building, which is a lot out of 36 or 37 certified staff. And so the challenge is to provide the supports for beginning teachers while providing enhancements and growth for our veteran staff. So that's certainly it's at the top of our talent concern. Academics, like I said, is really those NEAS goals that are the curriculum and the MTSS. Climate and culture, we continue to work on chronic absenteeism. That was an area of great concern to me a year ago when we were at 28% chronic absenteeism. I'm pleased to report that last year we were at 16. I want to get it down. I don't like being the number in the district that's driving that average up. School climate plan, you're gonna hear about when we finalize that towards the end of the year, but that's nested under our climate part of the school improvement plan. You're gonna see that in that school climate plan, there will be a focus on service learning and a focus on school attendance and participation. And then our operational objectives, again, surround aligning that curriculum to the vision of the graduate and developing a reporting system that's accurate and usable and accessible to families. And my final operations goal is sort of a hybrid between Mrs. McLaughlin and I, and that's to really look about the needs of our record storage and retention that are housed in this building, that are really reaching a point in their collection where we need to explore digitizing some, and looking at making sure that our records, transcripts, medical records, special education records are kept safe, secure, and accessible. So that's a priority and operations goal for us.
Kate, what is the long-term holding? How long to take? How long should you be holding school records for?
So that's a gigantic, it depends on what they are.
The general rule is you save everything for 7 years.
7 years, okay.
Transcripts for 50. Certain medical records for 50, including like immunizations. Those types of things. So different categories depending on what the records are and the rules for retention. I think the rules are evolving on what you can and can't digitize. So we're soliciting quotes from companies to come in and look at that.
Gonna do this.
And that will be something that, we'll likely be bringing forward in the budget season.
Right. Thank you.
I was also curious about that goal since it hasn't come up with other schools, and I was just wondering if you could walk us through why this is unique to the high school.
Mostly because we graduate them.
Right.
So when a student leaves this, graduates, their cumulative folders that have traveled building to building to building end here. So we do a great job of categorizing those regular ed folders. What we end up needing a more streamlined process for is things like students who move in and out. Students who have a special education folder, but didn't finish with their class. Maybe they went to a transition program at another district, or they needed another year. Big conversation about, do you categorize it by year of birth or year of graduation? And it's definitely a system, but basically all roads end here. And so that's really why it's not an elementary issue. Is because they just keep moving up with the kids.
And when a student does leave, that file is then transferred to the next school.
Copy.
Going to a copy, but we still would retain. You're getting anybody in third grade having to.
We should.
retain
We
it.
should be retaining it. What happens is most of the time what you want to end up with, and this is an area we can definitely improve with having a process to purge records. You don't need to save, the writing sample from second grade.
Right.
You do need to save the transcript and the SBAC scores and those kind of things. So how can we develop a process? We've just kind of done, I think what we all do in our houses, just save everything just in case. And it can get a little unwieldy.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Other questions for Kate?
Do you have a process to purge the whole folders after 15 years? In other words,
It's in
this year
development.
ends, you go through the year, it was 15 years ago, 2010, and
We need a better process.
Mm.
We need a better process. We really do. Like I said, I think our go-to has been, we'll keep everything in case we need it. I would hesitate to take you on a tour of our so ventilated records room. But it's definitely, there's room for improvement. I will put it there.
Can I ask you about the chronic absenteeism focus?
Yeah.
So you said this, and I'm just hearing this number, that last year we dropped down to 16%. That's great news.
Thrilled.
Well done.
Yes.
That's down from 28% the previous year. Is that, are you thinking that the 28% was a really strangely fluky year? Or are you thinking that the efforts that you started implementing last year really contributed to bringing those numbers down, or a little bit of both? And how does that inform kind of your goal moving forward for this coming year?
I definitely think the interventions that we put in place, I do think 28 was probably an outlier. And I do think that part of that was due to our conversion to Power School, with reporting. However, it is a challenge, especially as we talk, as we head into June. I had a wonderful chronic absenteeism rate till June hit. And most of the senior class declared themselves done. So we have, the 18-day mark is really the cutoff for absenteeism. But beyond that, it's chronic. And remember that includes if there's a suspension, if there is a medical, it's any reason the kid is not in the building counts towards absenteeism, with very few exceptions. So if kid has a concussion and those, even though I have a doctor's note saying they're on bed rest, those are counting to the numbers. But we've put some really good interventions in place around communicating, around calling the kids in and talking to them about it, bringing parents and families in. We've also strengthened our tardy to school policy where students are allowed four tardies a quarter. And then beyond that, there's disciplinary, in fact, because that's 10% of their time. And I don't want kids late more than 10% of their time. That's not a good workforce habit. And the other thing we did that I was super proud of Brianna Johnson initiated is we rewarded at the end of the third quarter, not necessarily kids who weren't chronically absent, but kids who had dramatically improved. And then we gave them a pep talk for the fourth quarter and moved forward. So I think it's a combination. I think kids are hearing from their teachers how important it is to be here. I also think we're shifting our curriculum, I hope, so that missing it and just doing the work isn't the same as being there. And that's really what you want.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Have you had any instances or a need to tell someone they're not moving to the next grade because of absenteeism? I noticed that in the policy that we're not talking about tonight, but that's an option.
So what we do at Portland High School and in most high schools is you move to the next grade until you hit 12. And then you can remain in 12th grade for as long as you need to graduate. Because it's a credit accumulation over the 4 years. So a student very rarely fails everything in ninth grade. It's never that clean. So they may have failed a ninth grade English course and they need to take that again, but they may have passed ninth grade mathematics and ninth grade science, so they would move to a 10th grade. We move them through the grade ranking. The other part that's important for is testing. Because you don't want kids to sit in 10th grade for 2 years, take the 10th grade standardized test, never be a junior, never take the SAT and skip to the 12th grade. So we want measurements in their first, second, third, and fourth year of high school.
I'm not sure. I was saying, are we mentioning to students throughout the all grades that, hey, if your absenteeism is above X, it's at Y now, but if it goes above X, you're probably going to repeat this grade.
No, that's not our practice.
Maybe we should have some more serious conversations that would help with the absenteeism.
It has not been my experience that a policy like that, it used to be districts had loss of credit policies. Where if you missed so many, absences in a semester or in a year, you would lose credit in the class, even if you were passing it. So essentially what you're saying. The outcome of that was rarely positive for anybody. Because if a student, had a B in history and lost credit, then they're repeating a course they've already had the curricula to earn a credit, and they have already had the content. The other thing is that loss of credit policies frequently generate challenges with doctor's notes and which families are able to access doctor's notes and which families aren't able to access doctor's notes. And it can kind of lead to this culture of, let me just find somebody to excuse my absence. The reality is I don't want kids who've been absent 30 days to be able to get an A. You need to be here. And that's the fundamental shift, is to make the learning visible in the classroom so that you can't just phone it in from your couch, AKA COVID. So that's really more loss of credit. They sound good on paper, but they rarely work.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's why I was asking for the data quarterly or monthly if he wants to, because we got to get it. I know you guys are doing a lot of stuff, but we don't know if it's working.
Well, according to my data, it is.
I want to see the data. That's what I said.
Yeah, so it definitely is. It is, like I said, we had a huge drop down from the year before to last year. And we are at 12% now, which is the highest in the district. But that's with a denominator of 23 days.
Yeah.
So you have one kid with the flu and they're going to be chronic. They're probably not they may not be absent again. So it's your kids with the pattern of behavior that you really want to zero in on, and you need 3 or 4 months to see that.
Right. I'm glad you're bringing that up because this is part of that reports that go to the state. Like you said, there's so little wiggle room for exceptions or understanding the why. So if we were to break it down granularly across all these schools and pinpoint what your actual chronic absentee, because they're just choosing not to come to school or there's a family concern
Those are your
versus
tendencies.
a child like Chuck said, 23 days, 3 days out, that's now chronically absent. So what's falling under that definition? I think we have to be super careful about saying, it doesn't mean they're not coming to school because they don't want to, or because families can't get them here. There are so many reasons, high school, especially those numbers, those concussions, so many things happen in high school. So I think that's important to remember.
And
when looking at
comparing
these
the
numbers.
chronic absenteeism rate to the truancy.
Right.
And that's a very different
That's a
metric.
different- Right.
And that's one that comes out annually.
And I think the other thing we see is that our fragile students who have health issues sometimes contribute to that absentee rate. And again, it's a medical reason that they're not coming preschool particularly, and then the high school or middle school. So, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's teasing out what are true medical
Yeah.
and what is. It's kind of a good day to stay in bed. And sort of motivating kids and making it important that there's important work being done here and they need to get up and come.
Well, I think the state has the LEAP program, which they did in some districts funded additional personnel to help to move the absentee rates down. But that model was also available, and I think we used most of the components of that model to visit homes, call kids, build relationships with the kids who are not coming because they don't want to be here. They don't like to be here. They like lunch and maybe socializing with their friends, but they don't want to go to class. So those are the kids who are great. I think we're doing pretty good.
Other questions for Kate? No, Kate,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. I'm pretty excited about the objective you've written around actualizing the vision of the graduate, and I'm excited to hear more about what happens with that in the coming months. Hi, Chuck.
Hey, yeah.
Back again.
So a lot of you've heard most of what I'm gonna talk about already through my board reports and through all the other principals' school improvement plans. I'm gonna reiterate the points that are relevant to kind of the district lens through our school improvement plan. So for me, the most important element that you'll see under my teaching categories of the school improvement plan is that continuation of the teacher evaluation model. We're going into year 2 of that, because teacher evaluation and really teacher support and evaluation, that is our best form of professional development for all educators. That is on the job support, continuous throughout the year. So part of our efforts this year are trying to work together as an administrative team to kind of norm our feedback practices. Dr. Britt and myself, Ms. McLaughlin, we're in all of the buildings providing feedback to the people under our teacher evaluation caseload, along with the principals. So we want to make sure that when we're giving feedback, we're doing it in the same way, so that regardless of what administrator you might be on the caseload, you're getting that same high quality feedback directed towards your professional learning. So maintaining those individual goals is a high priority within the teaching area this year. The second one is taking that same time and care in looking at our non-certified evaluation plans this year, as we did over the past 2 years for our certified evaluation plans. Looking at our paraprofessionals, our administrative assistants, making sure that we're giving them the same quality feedback throughout the year and rating them and talking about reflecting on their practices in a bit more of a modern context than the form we've been using for the past few years since I've been in the district. In the academic goals, talked earlier this year about kind of focusing on stage 2 of developing assessments within curriculum. Our professional development day, November 4th, that is a heavy focus of the day for many of our departments. But we'll make sure we're doing that in an individualized way that's relevant to each department. Assessments in math are not going to look the same as assessments in the culinary arts. And you've heard about the MTSS process for each of the buildings, having a heavy focus on auditing our multi-tiered system of supports, as well as ensuring that the interventions that we're providing are timely, they're relevant, they're targeted, and they're giving every student the right support they need at the right time. Making sure that we're building off of really strong practices that we have and sharing those frameworks across the district so that we're building on our own strengths. As we really look to solidify those roles, that's the intention of putting all the MTSS coordinators together this year as more of a cohort. My goal this year is to end the year with having a full MTSS handbook for the district that has things like qualification scores for intervention, and what the through lines look like, what the interventions offered look like. When I present the performance report next month, you'll see a lot of reflecting on last year's student performance based off of what do we do for these students now once we have that information. Looking at follow up what Mike said about math, we are going to be continuing a year-long process for math program evaluation for grades 6 through 8. The next step for that, we filtered down from Ed Site reports from 37 different potential curriculum ideas to 4. I've been vetting and doing product calls with each of those. We're bringing them to all the math teachers in grades 6 through 8 on the November 4th election day professional development to do demos of each of those products and curriculum to make sure that we're putting forward the absolute best program we can for our students, that our teachers feel fully confident at delivering and matching up with the appropriate professional practices that both Joe and Mike are supporting and training their teachers and working on with. We're also kind of bouncing off what Kate had mentioned. I'm focusing on looking coherently K-12 at how we're measuring, now that we've implemented our vision of the graduate throughout the district, how do we measure that? How do we monitor that throughout our different report card systems? And how do we monitor that throughout when you go from kindergarten all the way through high school? So we're not just telling the students we have a vision of the graduate, but we're monitoring their steps along the way. Along with continuing to focus on that minimizing screen time at the lower elementary level, investing in curriculum and resources and professional learning towards play-based learning to replace what was previously screen time, and ensuring that our teachers have a really well-developed play-based learning professional development and the resources to go with it. Our first one's actually going to be tomorrow morning at Valley View, where we are having someone rep from the CEA come in to do play-based learning, specifically focused on supporting the science of reading with play-based learning. Under culture and climate, part of my role is the district or the school climate coordinator, is to coordinate between the different school climate improvement plans that'll be developed by December of this year. To achieve that, we've kind of, as I mentioned before, we realigned the equity coalition towards a school climate coalition to help connect all of those school climate efforts and work with each of the school climate specialists to help focus their improvement efforts and kind of build some shared practices throughout the district. Attendance, just like every principal mentioned, is a high priority for me this year. Building some different data protocols in so that we are doing monthly monitoring of that throughout the year. We're focusing on the building practices that are being most effective. From a district lens, I do want to look at establishing some district guidelines for chronic school refusal student practices, such as home visits and engaging with the important youth services to partner on supporting students to make sure they have not just the, what is the consequence of missing school for this many days, but what's the support you need to get yourself to school, because so that we can get them there. Finally, with the school climate efforts, one of the major requirements was to ensure that we're implementing restorative practices in each of our building. We have each year sent teachers to get trained in restorative practices, or we've brought consultants in to do trainings for restorative practices. One thing I want to focus on this year is getting our own social workers and school climate specialists trained as trainers, so we can bring that training capacity, which is now an annual requirement, in-house, as opposed to having to go find ways to spend externally for us to do that training, build our own strength and our knowledge base in-house with our social workers, and using our teacher leaders to be the ones to deliver that professional learning to all of our new teachers and annually to our teachers for those refreshers. And then from an operations standpoint, working with secretaries to maximize our communication tools. Myself and Holly, the district data coordinator or data specialist, are going to be doing during each 2-hour delay, running secretary professional development to make sure that each of them have the skills they need on our technology tools to help leverage Power School, Parent Square, and any other tech tool that we might have, so that we're using those most effectively. to go along with that, ensuring that our AI practices aren't just getting in the hands of our teachers and working towards students, but leveraging those for our operations, like with our our secretaries and administrative assistants, so we can maximize their work as well. Looking to collaborate with the Gildersley Grant this year to develop mini grant proposals, all under the idea of trying to continuously promote innovation within the district and ensure that there are outlets for that innovation so we can build off of positive practices. And to go with that, and I know that this is something Kate has been working on, Corey Toussaint's been working on. We've started a Perkins coalition, Perkins Grant Consortium here in Portland, along with East Hampton and East Haddam, that Corey Toussaint is running and working on. He'll also be holding a meeting with all the CTE teachers within that consortium on November 4th, doing a breakfast, so that we are no longer working off of what was a shoreline focus or EdAdvance focused, not EdAdvance, the Learn focused consortium that really had more businesses focused on the shoreline, but looking to use more of the districts right around us so we could look to find internship programs, businesses to connect with that are local to us, not local to New London.
Makes a lot of sense.
And those are the highlights for my district, for the school improvement plan and the district portion of it. Happy to answer any questions.
I do have a question because what I don't see on here, SEL, that we talked about.
Yep.
And I know ruler was a possibility and I don't know where that ended up. But trying to coordinate the K-12 SEL curriculum. And I know middle school, high school was sort of lacking in resources. I wonder if, and then that really does come under climate and culture.
It does. It's part of climate and culture. It's also part of curriculum in trying to make sure that we've aligned our practices. To the best I can state, it's within the focusing on the coordinating school improvement plans. It's been one of those plans to focus on tier 1 SEL. And I would say, again, the focus there, we have the focus. Well, I'm looking at it here. I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain it.
It's under curriculum.
It's within both the SEL curriculum. It's within curriculum, it's within culture and climate. We are going to be looking at our tier 1 SEL programs. I mentioned earlier, we're going to be on November 4th, looking at different K-12 SEL programs that are essential for us to ensure that our students are given the proper tools to best build those soft skills that they need to be most successful as students and in working with other kids throughout their years in Portland. I guess that best goes within the focus on restorative practices, building those behavioral skills preventatively. That's kind of where I would tie that in.
And I guess the last question, I know report cards were reflective of the whole student in kindergarten, first, second, I think third grade. I don't know where we ended that process of updating our report cards, but to reflect some of the SEL climate, restorative practices and all of that.
I wouldn't talk about that in terms of SEL. I'd shift that more towards the vision of the grad. When I referenced before the soft skills of the vision of the graduate, that is what I meant, looking at those soft skills, like being a strong collaborator, being great at being strong at planning, following, setting goals for yourself. That's where I'm looking at our vision of the graduate core competencies, and you looking at the language you use at both our elementary report cards and how we go and how we build that up through high school. To report out on how are our students doing in those skills, making sure our language is aligned to that vision of the graduate, because we've been using some of the same report outs for years and looking to make sure that we've updated those to align with the new terminology we have with the vision of the graduate and those new skills.
Thanks for that clarification. Thank you.
Other questions for Chuck?
I guess I'm just wondering, I know the climate initiative you talked about that the new committee has started meeting. Have you formed the committees within the buildings for those?
So each building has formed their committee. I think one building that we had met had not had their first meeting yet, but all were either had their first meeting or were about to within the next week or two have their first climate meeting where they were looking at survey data. I remember a perfect example, Brown Johnson came with the drafted school climate improvement plan and the survey data that they had built that off of. And it's becoming it was a very nice working group for them to consult on the plans they were going to focus on. Everyone had the same theme of trying to, instead of making expansive climate improvement plans that hit 9 domains, but went an inch deep, really focus on 2 to 3 to 4 critical actions that they could take to improve that climate over the next year. So that's gone underway. The district is really going to be a tool to help coordinate those efforts and make sure that we're sharing really great practices that are happening between buildings and some challenges that they're going to experience as well in common, so that we can kind of work through those together and not have everyone suffering in their own isolated worlds on those.
I wondered with the meeting to have a parent on that committee, how that, if you were able to find people willing to serve on those committees and how the families have felt about it.
I will say that that one is one of the harder pieces we've had for the school-based committees. The requirement for that, and a lot of them are having working committees and then holding, the requirement for the parent component of it is specifically when reviewing the survey data twice a year. There's a requirement over looking through your climate improvement plan, looking at the survey data you do annually and ensuring you have those stakeholders. That is one that I can report on next month in terms of how that makeup looks. We have some students as well within the district committee, which was already why I looked at that as a potential committee to kind of transform into this function, because it had that makeup already and its mission was very aligned to the work that the school climate improvement climate improvement coalition is going to be focused on.
Thank you.
I don't have a specific question except to say this is very ambitious. How are you going to prioritize? How are you going to?
I'm going to learn by doing.
This is a lot, Chuck.
Yeah, well, the work of a district is a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing a lot at all times. My role is now not just within, shifting from curriculum instruction technology. The technology piece came off and the climate piece went on, and that's where the monitoring those systems came in. It's why I think it was important to shift that committee to be a school climate coordinating committee, because otherwise it was going to be me running around trying to wrangle in different schools and figure out what was going on. So having it there allowed it to all be in one place. I think what's been really helpful for this is the alignment that you've probably seen as you've heard all of the school improvement plans that we worked on from summer admin retreat on making sure that MTSS and assessment were a key focus. You've seen those throughout all. So that these efforts, you'll notice my name is not actually the named person responsible for a lot of these efforts. My job is to be kind of the glue within there. But a lot of these efforts are being done by others. They're being done in schools, right? Mike and Joe are the principals of the middle school and Brownstone as we're going through 6th through 8 math curriculum review. We have Krista Larson, our math curriculum specialist, will be heading that up. So one of the things that I think makes this achievable is that the responsibilities doesn't just fall on one person. We use a collaborative and collective approach to take these initiatives and move them forward.
Great. Well, we have our work cut out for us.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Chuck? No? Thank you so much. All right, so at this point, we have heard, we've received all 7 of our school improvement plans, and I believe unless there are more questions from board members that we are probably prepared to take action.
Yep, I have a motion, if you would like me to read it.
Yes, please.
To recommend to the Portland Board of Education that the school improvement plans developed for Valley View Elementary School, Gildersleeve Elementary School, Brownstone Intermediate School, Portland Middle School, and Portland High School, and the Portland Student Services Support Services, and the Office of Teaching and Learning to be adapted for the 25-26 Portland Board of Education goals.
Is there a second? Seconded by Stacy. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously with lots of thanks to our administrative team for all of that just incredible work focusing our year ahead. All right. Item B under new business is 2025-26 school calendar, and Charles is going to tee this up, kind of taking us back to the our sewage experience a couple of weeks ago.
So I'm just my recommendation to you is to take no action on the school calendar, right? So there's, I'd like to hear your discussion about it, but it's not really there's no, again, don't take action. So that, I'll remind you, you have the school calendar here. We have 181 days. State law says that we are required to offer 180. By not taking action and changing the calendar, it would mean that students in grades 7 through 12 would only go to school for 180 days, whereas our students pre-K to 6 would go 181. So I guess my suggestion is we recognize that what happened with the sewage spill was an emergency, not something we wanted to happen, but we absorbed that day and not add another day onto the end of the calendar. Because if we did that, that would mean we would be just bringing in the secondary school students and not the elementary school students. And to do that at the end of June, it just
Seems unwieldy.
doesn't make a lot of sense.
Actually, though, if we took away the 181st day of school, graduation would end up being on the 12th of June under this calendar. Otherwise, graduation, everybody has to.
No, we're not,
No, but I'm just saying, the last day of school is Monday, the 15th.
Right.
and we're not looking to change the last day of school. And in fact, if we have any snow days, we know that'll get pushed out. But the day that we're losing has already been lost.
I'm just up for some of the students.
Yes.
Right, so the question is, would you push out the final day to the 16th, or shall we leave the calendar alone on the 15th? And the day would only get pushed out for the secondary school students. Elementary, then our calendar, if we were to change it, elementary would be finished on the 15th and secondary schools on the 16th,
What?
which is
So,
not
Okay,
ideal.
understood.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but if we took away the 181st day of school, that Monday would not be the last day. I mean, we don't know how many snow days.
We're not looking to remove any days.
Well, but I'm just saying it makes sense. Well, never mind.
Okay.
That's fine. Since you're not, okay, fine.
Yeah, the recommendation isn't to change, our calendar year will still reflect 181 days, but in reality, secondary students would only attend for 180 because they missed that Tuesday 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I think,
Yeah, so I think what
I mean, it's a way of saying things and I just, it's good.
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion to do that. It's just, don't take any action. I'd love for you to discuss it. If anybody on the board objects to that and would prefer that we have a discussion about bringing the secondary students back on the Tuesday and then of course add out for any snow days, you know, that would need a board action to amend the calendar. But again, if I see nodding heads that yes, we'll absorb the day and not bring the high school students back. Then that's what we'll do. Seeing nodding heads.
is everyone kind of in agreement with the calendar as is? And when Charles and I discussed this earlier, we were reflecting on the fact that a couple of years ago, it was the elementary schools who had 3 or 4 early dismissals because of very high temperatures in September and in June. And so I think how we were feeling was that this happens. It doesn't happen frequently, but it was an emergency situation. Action was required. Modifying the calendar at this point didn't make a lot of sense.
All right.
Yeah, all right, we can move on. Great. Item C is adjustment to the ESS rate for.
You got one more.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed early release for high school. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Kate's gonna come up and talk to you, right? So again, this is one, I just want to have some discussion about. I'm not looking for a motion or for you to take action, but after hearing what Kate is asking for, if there are objections to releasing high school students early one afternoon so Kate can accomplish what she wants to accomplish for our 8th grade students, then, you know, that will inform our thinking about whether we go forward with Kate's plan. But I want you to hear what Kate has in mind. And get comfortable with it. If you're comfortable with it, again, I don't think we need to change the calendar. It just means that we would need to notice the high school students that on this given day, they would be able to leave at early. But I didn't want to authorize that without at least informing you of it and giving you the chance to raise any concerns about.
Quick question, if you're not going to answer this, will this impact the buses?
Yes.
They need them earlier and then we need them again for these 50 students?
Yeah,
No,
So there's a,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
No cost to it. You might hear
Um,
that.
And I appreciate your need to, I'm thanking myself that I remember to ask you. One of the things that we've been really focusing on at the high school, and you will see it when you approve our final climate plan, is service learning. We've always had a community service requirement at Portland High School to participate in all things senior year activities. Some families have an easier time completing community service. So we've always cast a very broad net over what would count, but it isn't really service learning. And one of the things that's kind of evolved, and I credit this plan to our student senate, is trying to find ways to engage our younger grades and making there be a connection between the high school and every grade K through 8. So you heard about Kid Governor and the American government kids going down and working with them. You heard about Fall Fest tonight. The little ones at Valley View, our creative writing class goes down and reads their storybooks. I think it's AP language that goes on Dr. Seuss's birthday and reads across America. Last year, we started our first annual Welcome the Sixth Grade to our spring pep rally, and no one got hurt. That was great. And seventh grade, 2 years ago, the National Honor Society started a Come Experience the High School in grade 7, and that was done very purposefully because that's really the year a lot of families are making decisions about high school. And as you know, we typically lose between 10 to 15% from 8th to 9th grade. That's been a fairly standard number during my tenure as principal, to a variety of different institutions. And one of the purposes that we want to do, especially with the 7th graders, is make sure everyone's making an informed decision on that. That some decisions are very much right for families, but most of our quote unquote competitors have very aggressive marketing plans, and at the high school we just show who we are. And I've had numerous feedback over the years of, wow, I didn't know Portland High School had insert something right there at the end. So that was the purpose. And 8th grade was our outlier. So we came up with a plan that I would like you to endorse, to do 8th grade shadow days. And this is student senate driven and supported by the students in the National Honor Society. And it would really break out to 2 school days, having students, half of the 8th grade one day, half of the 8th grade the other day, partner. So like Liam and Anna would have an 8th grader, and they'd follow them to their classes for the day. And we would have lunch together, and they would see a day in the life. And this is less about recruiting and more about getting kids excited for all that Portland High School has to offer them. The culminating event, and this is the early dismissal, would be at 1 p.m. So it's an hour early on the second day of the shadowing, where we would ask the high school students who are involved in the program, which my guess is it would be between 50 and 75 high school students, to stay. And those students who were not involved would be dismissed at 1 p.m., either on a bus funded by Student Senate, or parent pickup, or supervision in the cafeteria if they're waiting for practice. I mean, it's really no trouble to keep them. So during that last hour, we would have 3 20-minute sessions that a student could sign up for. And we're going to create an advisory activity with the middle school so that kids can make some selections. So an example of that would be a strong math student with an interest in art might attend an AP math session, then art, then computer science. And that would be what that student would select. A hands-on learner could attend CTE, culinary, and forensics. The sessions are designed to be informative, but also fun and interactive, and not just, here's the syllabus and these are the books you're going to read. Again, with the idea of getting our 8th graders focused on what they need to do for the rest of their 8th grade year and getting them excited to become Highlanders. So the vision
is that by the time kids have got through K through 8, this isn't a strange place. This is a place that they feel pretty connected to. And then the service learning for our students to go down and sort of give back to their communities also dovetails with an initiative that Mr. Marino and I have started, which is service learning for sports teams. And each team, each season will complete. I think the boys soccer team is doing something on Saturday with a kickathon. So yeah, so something that makes sense. And gives gives the middle school the opportunity as a sports team and the high school an opportunity as a sports team to come together to do something good for the community. So I'd like to let them go at 1:00. In a nutshell.
On one day in the spring.
Actually, it would be in December.
In December.
Yep.
I missed that. Okay. That sounds like fun. I think.
Yeah, I'm not totally following, to be honest with you. I get the concept of shadowing someone. I think that's a great idea.
Yep.
Is this they shadow someone in the morning and then they have the afternoon where they just kind of hang out?
No, they would, in the afternoon on that last day, they would get to select offerings of their interest. So example, if I send a student with Liam, that student, if they may not have the same interests as Liam, so they're gonna go through and they're gonna see authentic high school classes. They're gonna see and we're not gonna have just honor society kids do this. We're gonna have kids that don't have an AP schedule, that have different interests. So the idea would be to allow kids at the end of the day an opportunity to self-select. And really, it's a relatively small part of the program, but it is a huge planning component. And
It's
one
not-
of,
Still not registering in my mind that it's self-select. I think you should have, every kid should have a select,
Choice.
pardon?
In the afternoon, they rotate through by choice. In the morning, they're with whoever they're matched up with and they follow their schedule. And in the afternoon, they rotate through 3 sessions that they can choose.
But there are no teachers in the afternoon.
No,
There are either.
all the high school teachers will still be here.
They're still having classes.
They'll be running sessions.
They'll be running the sessions, which is why we need to send the other high school kids home.
Yeah.
And we just have regular sessions and they just sit in on a classroom with 15 other kids.
Right.
Be too many people.
So I have a draft. I'm afraid to hand it out.
I was gonna say, it's not attached to this.
No, it was linked into something.
Yeah, it's not here, but.
But if you want, don't hold me to every minute on this.
And just to be fair, I mean, you really just need our approval for early dismissal, right?
I just need not your disapproval, really.
I think we would really just like hear this and say, hey, we strongly object to allowing the high school kids to be done with their normal program at 1:00 on this day. I don't need to vote or a motion. I want you to be aware of it and, because you'd hear about it and, sometimes we make decisions about asking for permission or forgiveness, right? I didn't want for Kate to just go ahead and do this and to get back to you that, hey, we put a half day on the calendar and didn't get your authorization on it, right?
And it's not even really a half day, it's an hour.
I mean, it's changing your calendar slightly.
They have to elect to do
So it's
that.
not even every 8th grader that'll participate necessarily.
I think 95% of them will.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Mike will have an alternative activity if there's somebody who is really afraid to come over or that kind of thing. We do a lot in 8th. Once we head into preparing for high school, we do a lot of transition work. We also do a new last year curriculum course selection night for parents and students in grades 8 through 11. And that's usually late February after course recommendations have come out. That's an evening program for parents.
I have a question. So special ed kids that may be uncomfortable or need a one-on-one pair with them, will they be accommodated? also?
Everybody.
Every-
Absolutely. And Mike thinks this is a good idea.
I think it is a great. idea.
I love it too. I think it
think
seems
it'll
like
be
such a
awesome.
great opportunity for our 8th graders and I love the way you're creating, you're trying to grow this focus on service learning. I love that 50 or 75 of our high school students will be tied in with this effort and have that experience, that kind of like, even if it's short term, that kind of short term mentorship opportunity is really neat. Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth trying and see how it goes. And then if you need to tweak it for next year.
They're involved.
Yeah.
Not ready.
It really won't be.
Yeah, no, I would think they'd want to hang around, just
Yeah.
like, because it would be a fun day.
Yeah, what I've done in the past, and for those of you who have been on the board for a while, back when we had exams. And we used to let the high school students would go at 11:45, sort of like a midday run. I worked with Nancy and we ran a modified run.
Mhm.
So instead of sending 8 buses, she sent 3.
Mhm.
And the kids who needed a bus ride home took it. And like I said, we would fund that the same way we fund a bus to a soccer game. And we would fund it out of the student activity account, in this case, Student Senate, that aligns with the activity.
I think it's absolutely worth trying and see kind of what comes out of it and see what the feedback is. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
thanks, Kate. All right. Great. Now we're moving on to new business item C, and this is adjustment to the ESS substitute rate for teachers and paraeducators. And y'all should know this is driven by a change in minimum wage rates that goes into effect January 1. And so this is, I'm sure you'll remember, the second year in a row that we're doing this kind of mid-year change, and it's not ideal, but we just learned about this with the wage adjustment was just announced last month. So, go ahead, you can talk about our meeting with.
Yeah, we have to
ESF.
do it, we have to follow minimum wage law. Personnel committee met with ESS, and we also, in addition, I have in your folder tonight some data from ESS. In the past, ESS has come to the full board and presented fill rates and all that type of thing. This time I decided to do it through personnel just because our meetings are, as you can feel right now, going a little long, right? And full, and we have a lot going on. So personnel committee reviewed some of the ESS fill rate data. That's also in your folder, and in addition to having that presentation with Lisa to talk about what we need to adjust to be compliant with the new minimum wage law. So this is a motion. I do need you to approve us increasing these rates to align with minimum wage. And then if you had any questions about our fill rates or our data coming out of ESS, I would be happy to answer that too. Otherwise, it's all been discussed at personnel.
And I think it is important to highlight that when we had this conversation last year, based on the minimum wage adjustments, we needed to make adjustments not just to our teacher and paras daily substitute rate. We had to make adjustments to the rest of our structure because it kind of making that adjustment through was out of whack for the entire layout of wages for substitute teachers. This time around, she advised us that the rest of our scale looks fine and that we really just need to make modifications to the teacher and para sub rates.
I don't have any questions. I can make a motion. To recommend to the full board that the adjustment to the ESS substitute rates to $114.35 per day for certified teacher substitutes and $105.88 per day for paraeducator substitutes will be effective January 1st, 2026.
Seconded by Sarah. Any further discussion? Any questions? Nope. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. That was unanimous. All right. Thank you all for that. Okay. Item D is our Board of Education policies. This is a first reading on these 6 policies. So I think we'll just take them one at a time and, Charles, Meg, whoever can give a little brief synopsis. And if there are questions about the specific policy, then we can take those questions. But just process wise, especially because Karen, I think this might be the first time you're seeing policies on the agenda. We do 2 readings. So we'll look at these. We're just, asking questions for the first read tonight. And then these will all appear again for a second read on our next agenda.
Yeah, and I can quickly run them down, Fred. I did send you some summaries of them.
Mm-hmm.
5 of these policies are mandated, right? So we don't, they were also laws that were passed or amended last legislative session, came adjust those policies for us. And And, you know, we don't have a lot of discretion. We have to follow the law, same way we did with minimum wage, right? So the first three, in terms of the library materials, review, the collection maintenance and the library display program. These were all passed as part of legislation. Chuck has reviewed them with our librarians. Our librarians are all very much in favor of them. They do reflect the National Association of Librarians and best practices with libraries. Largely, the gist of them is that we trust our certified librarians to make decisions about what's in the library, what's circulated. You know, look around here, all of the displays that you see and things, you know, we trust our librarians to tend to the collections and have displays and maintain our collections and read them and follow all of the practices that they are well trained to do as a function of their preparation program. That's the long and the short of it. Be happy to answer any questions about any one or all of the policies that have to do with the library.
I would just add that the language that we had in our policy manual on, like on material review or reconsideration was fairly outdated. So this really does kind of, I mean, it is mandated, the language is what it is, but it also brings us up to date. And it comes with an up-to-date complaint form for community members, teachers, whoever, parents to use in the event that they would like to object to material. So it's important that we get this all in place.
Well, you touched on the question that I had, whether this replaces the process that parents would use if they had, if they wanted to petition for their child to not be exposed to one book in a classroom setting.
This is specific to libraries.
Right.
So we still have our old, is it 1312? Is that what the policy is? Our old complaint about, our old policy about public complaints. You'll see that policy likely on a future agenda because that language needs updating as well. But that process will still be articulated in our policy manual. These three policies are specific to libraries.
Should I move forward?
Go ahead,
Okay.
go for it.
Uh,
Any other
the-
questions?
Yeah, any
No?
question about the library? Then the next one, truancy, you're gonna see that again, just weren't quite ready. We're
Yeah.
gonna skip over that. The special education one, this is just a new reporting requirement. We are required to report to the board those outplacement facilities and contractors that we use. That's so, you know, as opposed to just redlining, we kind of were just said, rip and replace the policy and it makes it easier. Where you're gonna see that is the next time Sarah reports to, I'm just gonna have it as a standing item on her monthly report, right? A list of those vendors and contractors we use that support our special service. That are outside of, you know, what we have. So, that's the gist of it. And, you know, obviously, we've always had a special education policy that would be a function of federal law and state law. But the change there is just about what we report. Pretty innocuous. And
Does it include schools to which students are actually outplaced or ones that we have historically?
you'll see it'll change. So it's ones we're
It's real
currently
time.
using, and then as they go off or come on, you know, Stephanie, Sarah will keep that update. You'll see that.
Concern about student anonymity or protected information with that, even if this is a small population.
It's good. That's a good point. Let me talk to, maybe we'll just keep them all on there and not weed it in real time. But you're right. We want to be careful because, yeah, let me talk to Sarah about that. But the law does say we have to do that.
So the language is required, maybe we could ask Sarah to look further into what the best practices are when you're in a small district. In terms of how that reporting happens to make sure that student anonymity is protected.
So, and so, you know, we're well
Yeah.
aware of.
Oh, yes.
And our.
Sarah will be wonderful.
Sarah will be right on top of that. We will both make sure that policy about reporting to you is followed, but also make sure we do it in a way that, you know, that masks which students might be involved.
Yeah, good question, Sarah. Any other questions about the special education policy?
And that one is a rip and replace. Okay, the educational opportunities for military children, this would be a new policy for Portland. We haven't had this policy before. But it talks about military children are transient. They're subject to move. You could be at the New London base and then in Hawaii and then back, right? This talks about how we treat these children when they're moving, and that, we treat them well, right? We don't, go overboard with residency or, making sure that they're getting the courses and the programs of study they want, we're following their IEPs, these people, our families are serving our country. We're going to treat their children well if we don't. Yeah, I had a lot.
But they're still residents of the town.
Right, of course.
Okay.
And all of this is, I think, practice we already have. It's just formalizing it in a policy that's now required, mandated by the state.
Right. Fair enough.
Questions about that?
All right, so the last one, though, this is a little different. This isn't a mandated policy, but this is one that we've been working on for a long time. Right, so in the past, we've had our policy 3160 about transfer of funds, right? Now, not to say we weren't following the policy, but we weren't entirely following the policy as it was written. Specifically, that policy called for you to be voting on fund transfers within line items in real time. To give you a big example was last year, you said, hey, take the money out of what you have budgeted for transportation, move that money to purchase a van and pay for a driver and save money. Right now, according to the policy, that should have been a vote that was taken, and you should have then seen that in that authorized spending report that Stephanie gives you during her report. Instead, what you saw is the money stay there, but a big negative in one line item and a positive in another line item, right? The policy before the changes that I'm suggesting tonight didn't have you taking real-time action on those. So instead, your authorized spending report always showed negative or positive balances. Stephanie's already, and I were, I think, pretty good about informing you of what was causing those and asking for your blessing to make those changes. We just weren't taking the vote to do that and changing it. And the reason for that was because the way our enterprise system is set up, we couldn't make those changes. Like there wasn't a way to do that because the software didn't allow it.
And
right?
the software still doesn't allow it.
The software still doesn't allow it.
There.
So
This is it. This is through the town. We don't have, this is our partnership with the town.
right. So, I had conversations with our partners on the town side and it was like, you don't need to do that. You're clear, you're transparent, you're showing the authorized spending report. You can see where the money's going. I mean, that's your dashboard. If one's in a line item's in a negative and another is in a positive, it's likely telling you that as long as you're reporting it. Then what you would do is months later, that's when Stephanie will bring you make the transfers now, and she kept tabs on them all for you, but it was when we closed the books and reconciled, then you would take action to make all the transfers formally that you were aware of, right? Does that make sense to everybody?
Right, she kept an record of any transfers that could not be put it into the system at that time, but it gave her extra work. She had a little log, and we every month had to explain the deficit in the transportation line item because we bought the van.
And it will continue to be that
And
way.
it's gonna be that way because enterprise doesn't allow us to do that.
But now the policy changes that are reflected here reflect our actual process. We determined in collaboration with Tom and the town that we do not have the ability to make changes to our software. We do not have the ability to make transfers throughout the year. They need to happen as fourth quarter transfers. So Tom and Stephanie worked together to make sure language in the policy reflects what our practice is.
And part of what took us so long to fix this was I did need Tom's focus to make sure that we weren't running afoul of any charters or bylaws or generally accepted accounting practices or state laws about this. So, both the discussion and the time it took, reflected Tom's due diligence to make sure that that by adopting this policy, you're not adopting anything that's gonna get an accounting exception or bring us out of compliance with what we're supposed to do. The language that I shared with you tonight was actually developed by Tom, in collaboration with Stephanie and me, that reflects what we do now and is in compliance with generally accepted accounting practices, town charter, board bylaws, and we can do it this way. It's really just a change of the policy to bring us into alignment with what we've been doing for a very long time.
Hopefully all that makes sense, but are there questions? No, all right.
That's six policies. Do you want to do individually or do you want to do them?
No, we're not gonna take action. This is just the first read. We'll come back to this.
Right. Okay, good.
But,
Thank you.
absolutely, take time with it over the next month. And if you do have additional questions, you can always send those over and we can try and make sure you get answers. Yeah.
November 17th for the second read.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, questions, concerns about any of these before we move on? Okay, all right, good. All right, that was a lot. Here we go. Item E, discussion and possible action on formation of an ed specifications task force. All right, do you want to queue it up or do you want?
Sure.
Go ahead.
All right, so we know that the strategic planning committee made its recommendation. The strategic planning committee's done, right? That's the committee's not meeting anymore or doing any more. Recommendations are the recommendations. The problem I have now is that I don't have a committee, right, to work with. To me, the committee then defaulted back to buildings and grounds, right? That the buildings and grounds committee would be the committee we'd be working with to do strategic planning for the district's facilities, right? When I met with, but I did have a conversation with Mike Toronto and he said, yeah, it would be nice if you had a task force, right? That could be the buildings and grounds committee, but you want to put other people on it, right? It would be smart to have the buildings and grounds committee supplemented with other folks like members of our board of selectmen, like community members, like teachers, and then you serving in an ex officio way with me and Bob and Stephanie to get together to talk specifically about your education specifications plan. Because as we know from our experience, last time we did this, it's the education specifications plan that informs the architect in terms of the blocking diagram, the conceptual order of magnitude budget, the cash flow matrix, and all the things we do. So Laurel and I spoke, and we think it's a good idea to form a education specifications plan task force that Laurel would like to get your blessing to form tonight, put members on it, and then we've got to get working, right? Like, once this task force is assembled, I think we need to meet next week early to start having a discussion with the architect, answering some questions that, like, picking up where the strategic planning committee left off, making some decisions, having some discussions, and tasking our architect with the work he needs to do in consultation with the construction company and others, so we can push this process along, again, if our goal is to get out to a referendum in May. So I think what Laurel's gonna shortly ask is for a motion to form this task force, and then in her capacity as chair, appoint certain board members to that task force, and then reach out and invite members of the Board of Selectmen, some teacher representatives, community representatives, a group of people to get together and start forming these as education specifications for our art.
This would be an ad hoc committee, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you remind me with the last round of ed specs that were created? Did we have a committee like this the previous time?
We did not.
Okay.
I did not.
Sure.
That's a good question. There was, that was coming, it was a little scattered, right? That we'd gotten a recommendation from the facility study committee at that point that was modified by the Board of Selectmen. We felt like we had or I guess you felt like you had the information you needed to move forward with that plan and worked closely with Mike Serrano. This time, we have recommendations from the Strategic Capital Committee and we have new information coming out from DAS. And so there's a feeling, I think, that, you know, Charles shouldn't feel like he's in a silo making these decisions with Mike Serrano, that we want to make sure that we've got the right team of people from the Board of Ed, because this education specifications report is the purview of the Board of Ed. This is the one piece of the process that we formally vote on. So it made sense. It made sense to me, and I think to Charles, that that we form a committee to support that work and make sure that when decisions are being made about what gym kind of space we need at Valley View, or how
Or
to
whether to have
capitalize,
gyms.
or whether to have gym space, or how to capitalize on additional reimbursement that we're learning is becoming available to us through the state, that
Or
he's
whether
got
to
a sounding board.
I mean, there are other things that the strategic planning committee didn't conceptualize because of new information like this grant trust fund, right? That you and I have talked about, right? That you know, we in our education specifications plan, how many pre-K rooms do we want? We currently have 2.
We talked about the 9,000 square feet that could be wiped off of Gildersleeve because it's oversized, or we keep the 9,000 square feet and we do something with pre-K.
So
So there's some additional questions to weigh as the ed specs are being developed, and it made sense to have input from Board of Ed members, from a Board of Selectmen representative, from our first selectman, from a community member, from a teacher, to make sure that we have those voices present as those decisions are being recommended.
There've been so many committees.
I know.
Where we
Yep.
left off and
It is.
Yeah.
what we're.
So this is an ad hoc group to support the development of the ed specs that have then eventually get approved by the Board of Education.
So I'll make a motion that we establish an ad hoc committee for the formation of an ed specs task force to have members appointed.
Thank you, Meg. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Karen. Any discussion, any questions, comments?
Just a couple.
Mhm.
Keep hearing task force and committee. Is there a difference? Because is this going to be like a committee where we have to be on the calendar and we're going to report out every meeting and things like that? Or is this going to be a task force to have an end goal of helping him design the ed spec?
Both, because FOIA requires that we, you know, so it is a task force, and that, I mean, I think we're calling it a task force and that there's an end date, right? This work is going to be driven over the next 2 months, and then hopefully the ed specs at that point are a document that then come to the full Board of Ed for consideration. But they are absolutely, the committee will be the task force will be subject to FOIA. There will be an agenda, there will be minutes that are made public.
And public can attend and listen to.
And I would fully expect that that group would be reporting back to the full board over the next month or 2.
And also, I would hope that this group makes a recommendation to the board to support the ed specs plan.
Right. Exactly.
So and of course, with the ed specs plan, prior will then be saying, most importantly, how much it will cost you to achieve what you've outlined in the ed specs plan. And then, of course, what's your reimbursement rate? What's your timeline for implementation, and what you get at the end of it?
Yeah.
I guess the only concern, maybe not a concern, I'm all excited about helping out where I can, but I've been on, there's been 2 committees so far, and it ends up going down rabbit holes, and then things are votes, and not everybody's on the same page, and it ends up mucking up the waters, and I just want to be as productive as possible and helpful as possible without getting stuck in the minutia of
I think this
pomp and circumstance.
specific day, because it's about what's gonna go into these buildings. You know, it's the number of doors and it's the number of bathrooms and sinks and spaces, planning spaces. So I don't think you're gonna get down the rabbit hole like we did, where we've got a lot of data and it's like, okay, how do we make sense out of all of this?
We have I mean, how I'm feeling about it, Dave, is that we have a recommendation from Strategic Capital. That committee, we're running with it.
Right.
I think it's gonna need tweaking, and I think some
Yeah.
pieces of it may end up changing because we will have new information from Department of Administrative Services that will inform what the total cost is, and you know, this you know, I wouldn't be surprised if some pieces of that plan need to be tweaked.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But I think that we got our marching orders from that
Okay.
committee. It seems like this board supports that plan as a concept. It seems like the Board of Selectmen supports that plan as a concept. So I think we have to kind of say, okay, let's figure out what that looks like in reality.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, as we go down the funnel, right, the facility study committee started with 100 options. You know, strategic planning committee sort of started the same way, right? We're not there on this task force. We know what we're doing. Pre-K to Valley View, pre-5 Gildersleeve, 6th grade to the middle school, improvements on the HVAC system at the secondary school. This committee should not, I will advise it strongly not to deviate from that. But there's still details.
Okay.
Like, do we have a gym? Or do we just do the multipurpose room? Do we add 4 pre-K classrooms or do we stick with 2? Right? Those are the details that are going to show up in an education specifications plan that are details Charles Britton doesn't want to be making decisions about absent input from a group of stakeholders.
Okay.
Does that kind of
Yeah,
answer your
yeah, I just
question?
kind of thought that. I just wanted to hear it out loud.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
it's good to talk it through. I
Yeah.
agree.
I don't think, I think this is very specific.
Other questions, thoughts? Okay, a motion was made and seconded. So if there is no more discussion, then I will call the question. All in favor? Aye. That passes unanimously. And thank you all for that. And I would like, I've had conversations with Kim and with Dave. This came out of and with Meg, this came out of a desire to put our Buildings and Grounds Committee to work along with additional outside input. So with gratitude for your willingness to serve, I would like to ask Kim and Dave to serve on this committee. If you're both still willing.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
No, I think it's a good move for Dave, has been on a couple of committees and Kim has experience of a classroom teacher.
Yeah.
Who, you know, is front and center, and the wisdom that you've brought to some of the questions that you've had about our plans in the past, resonate, and so I think you'll both be great on the committee. Do we need recommendations? Your community might be willing to.
Oh, that's such a nice,
Great.
Stacy.
Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Perfect.
Oh, thanks for that offer. All right. Thank you all for that. I think this is gonna put us in a good position to really dig in and get to work. Like, you know, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Next week, we gotta go.
All right. Any other thoughts before we move on to the next item? Nope. All right, here we go. The last item of new business is the CABE Delegate Convention, which is coming up the day before the CABE Convention. So it's Thursday, November 20th. And in past, so Meg asked me to add this to the agenda, and I was happy to do it because in past years, Meg has sort of by default served as our board delegate. Every board that's a member of CABE gets most boards get 1 vote. Some of the bigger towns, I think, get 2 or 3. We get 1 vote in the delegate committee and convention, and the decision making is really around what issues are part of CABE's platform or advocacy work in the coming year. So I think we wanted to put it out to board members. If anyone has availability or interest in attending the delegate convention and serving as the board delegate.
It's 4 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon and dinner follows.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting because the resolutions are brought forth from other districts and they could involve, you know, they always involve things like, you know, fund IDA and special ed services and fix the ECS money, but there are some really interesting pieces that go into labor relations and other things. Every member, I think every member of the boards get a blue book. I think it was mailed out, all the resolutions. So I'm hoping that somebody else would come and take that responsibility.
if you have interest.
if you have an interest in,
I'm sure if no one's available, that Meg will,
well,
Meg will do it again. But,
but I think it's an interesting opportunity to see, how advocacy really, and the conversation, we really need to have, the partnership of superintendent organization, the CEA. This is gonna be a tough year, you know, the reports that we're hearing, from NSBA is that 2025, the funds are still flowing out of Washington, they're coming into the states. 2026 is very uncertain, and the government shut down for 4 weeks. And the firing of people, the laying off of people, you know, some of the funding will not be appropriated if they ever get back to work in Washington. So we don't know what we're facing. The advocacy part of HAVE is gonna be very, very important. So come and be part of it and join the fun. That's all I can say. And
I
you
don't
can
know
let,
if I'll be here, so I can't really commit to anything.
That's
Just saying.
that's fair. I hear you.
But if you are, you're.
Yeah.
yeah, well, I don't think we have to know immediately, but they do.
Yeah.
They do respectfully want names ahead of time so they can, and anybody can come. If you don't want to come to the, you know, if you're coming to the convention conference, you know, you can come on Thursday and you can participate and watch. You don't have to be there.
Think it over. There's no pressure.
Yeah, let Laurel.
We can put Meg's name forward, and if someone else says, hey, actually, I am interested, let us know and we can sub you in instead. That sound like a plan?
Yeah, that sounds like
Okay.
a good plan.
All right.
Let us know.
And if you have questions about the delegate
Yeah.
convention or the process or anything, you can always reach out.
Yeah, and if you are elected and you are seated, Karen, you know, the November, the election is November the 4th, so,
Yeah.
you know, we still have time. It's
I'll let you
funny.
know on the 5th.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. Okay.
Fair enough.
We get to a spread away.
All right. Okay, moving on, there is no old business. We will move to committee reports. The first item on committee reports is curriculum. Kim, do you want to give the update or do you want me? It was last month. It's a while ago. We had our first curriculum committee meeting with Chuck at the helm, and it was great. We did kind of review our board policy on curriculum, and there, I think is a recommendation for that policy maybe to go to the policy committee for a look at to make sure that our practice, our district practice and board involvement in curriculum development is sort of in line, our policy is in line with our practice. And then Chuck gave a good update on kind of curriculum development status in the district and how much of that curriculum is in the process of or fully uploaded into our online portal so that family and community members can access it online. Really good progress is being made to make sure that all of that is accessible to the community. So it was good conversation, and Chuck was also talking about planning for a data presentation to the board coming up in November.
Yeah, and it got pushed down to November.
It got pushed to November. So there'll be an initial sort of achievement report. And then we will have next generation accountability data available in the winter. So that'll be sometime in January, February. Yeah. Anything else you wanted to add? Okay.
Good report.
I had to go back to our minutes because it was a while ago. All right. Questions about curriculum? No, policy.
Policy, I think we need to do our calendar because we only have one meeting in November and one in December. And we're kind of caught up, but we're not because there's more coming, probably from CAVE. So maybe just do a couple of days. November and December. That's no special meeting this point.
Yeah, and a lot of the work is you're all seeing all the policy work, but we did make it through the August 8th.
We did our update.
CAVE update that had a huge number of mandated policies. So you've seen most of them tonight. You'll see the rest of those at our next meeting. All right. Personnel.
Negotiations starting next week.
That's correct. Negotiations are starting next week.
And we also discussed the transportation contract that we talked about earlier in the meeting today.
as well as the two para positions and the custodial, part-time position, increasing hours to 30 hours a week. We dealt with those in our last meeting, so. And the ESS rate adjustment, that kind of constitutes all of the last personnel meeting conversation. Anything else, Sarah or Dave? Okay, buildings and grounds.
So buildings and grounds, Bob Shea gave us an update on a lot of things, projects that were completed over the summer, painting. He talked about things like safety, the roof issues still ongoing. They're dealing with problems as they arise. We talked about that 25-hour custodial position moving to 30 hours. Talked about the consolidation plan and how the Buildings and Grounds Committee, that historically all of these other committees have really taken over the purpose of the Buildings and Grounds Committee of doing the work, and now the Buildings and Grounds Committee needs to get back to doing the work, not just hearing Bob reporting on the work. So it's ironic that now we're on the committee that's going to be doing the work, but we're on the Buildings and Grounds. So
That's a perfect flavor
doing the work. And then talked about the state funding piece, talked about potential for full day pre-K. Good conversation around all of that. And then we talked about the drip program, talked a lot about the different ways that that can be utilized. And then we talked about having a calendar of all the deadlines and everything that we need to be working on and making sure we know a plan, clear and concise, get things moving. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Thank you. All right, correct liaison.
We met last week. Superintendents and business managers came to a breakfast and learned about, we met Desi Naismith, who's the new director, executive director. Greg is going to retire. I think they talked about services. We're trying to, as I sit on the council, trying to get districts to use correct services more. There's a lot, 144 programs, 16 magnet schools. The budget is like $650 million. It's huge. But we do provide a lot of services. I think the state, when they updated their special ed, we had a discussion about this, when they updated their special ed requirements and reporting of private and public outplacement facilities, they included CREC in the approval process, although CREC has all certified teachers. So that was a little bit astounding, I think, and kind of insulting to CREC, quite frankly, because we do have students from around Connecticut that go to CREC facilities. But there is that reporting of from private and also semi public facilities where the sending district needs to oversee and make sure services are being provided at as the IEP requires and the expense for it. So that is a good conversation, but we'd like to see districts take advantage of a lot of programs and services that are good. But I think that was that. Next meeting is November.
Thank you, Meg. Dave, Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot. It was a relatively short meeting. There was a couple small things. One that I'm gonna mention that I really don't understand is somebody brought up the discussion, I think it was a voice of a citizen, and they had a discussion on it. Was the gate down here at the end on Butler Lane and controversy over when it's open, when it's not open, so I don't want to speak to any more of that, but I know it was brought up as an issue, so I don't know if.
It's communication ongoing between First Selectman Felton and Dr. Britton to kind of get to the bottom of that.
Okay.
And
Bring up, the other thing is,
Yep, thank
someone would ask about the next steps on the CIC, which I was telling Laurel, my neighbor came over to me today talking about just general, because so what's the update with the schools? I mean, so the nice thing is it's still on people's minds and they still want to know what's going on. So I think we gotta strike while the iron's hot and keep this thing going, which I think we will. But I just want to make that point that it's still out there.
yeah. All right, youth services.
No meeting, but Halloween on Main.
Right, Friday.
Friday.
Yes,
We-
the name of it
we need to
is
update this.
now.
I'm
The
realizing.
Portland Public Schools Climate Coalition.
All right, we're gonna get that updated on the next agenda. Any other
And
updates you want to add to that, Sarah?
We met,
Coalition?
yeah, we met for the first time this school year last Tuesday, and most of the school's climate specialists were in attendance, as well as a couple of high school students. Chuck was leading that, and as he mentioned, we did discuss the new school climate law, and he gave us a status. Our district is in good stead in terms of how we're implementing the new requirements of that law. And he also had mentioned there was a lot of conversation around SEL curricula across the district. Meg, I think you had mentioned ruler earlier, and something that came up in that meeting was that Portland was selected as one of the control districts, so that we're not initially. I mean, that means that we have to hold off until we can receive that.
But at least
correct?
we're in the mix at this point. It's a 2-year wait, but
Yeah.
we're okay.
So just wanted to, since you had raised that earlier, the coalition or the committee worked last year on a definition of civil discourse and an accompanying framework. So we sort of finalized that, and that's going to be coming to this board for review and sort of an FYI in the future. And then I think this was also raised when we were discussing the not taco plans. The school improvement plans, thank you, that there is a desire for parents to join each school's climate and culture committee. So I can't remember, Meg, if maybe you had asked that question. And so we talked about ways to get the word out to more parents so that they're aware that this committee exists, and if they have an interest, they can express that interest to the principals or someone else at the school. So I just wanted to kind of read that into the record that the climate and culture committees at the individual schools do want parent participation at that level. That'd be a great place to get that input. And then our next meeting is going to be December 9th.
All right, thank you for that update. Any questions for Sarah? All right. Audience of citizens. Do we have anyone online?
We do, actually.
Excellent. Once you're unmuted, if you could just, well, it's gonna take a second to make sure we can see and hear you. But once you're unmuted, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Amanda Bertrand. I'm a first grade teacher at Valley View. Can everyone hear me okay?
We can hear you, Amanda. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I had a question regarding the school consolidation and the conversation about forming the task force for it. And I was wondering if there would be any sort of consideration on having a meeting with Valley View teachers and seeing what input we would have going into the preparations for the new school building. I know that, or I shouldn't say I know, but I think that the input of the elementary teachers would be very valuable when considering the plans for the new building, but I'm not sure if necessarily becoming a part of the task force is something that people would be willing to take on. But I still think that having, even if it's just a meeting or an opportunity to voice considerations for the building might be valuable.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Dr. Brittner, I will follow up with you for sure. We're not going to do any back and forth, but I can assure you that teacher input for this whole process and for the development of the ed specs is very important. Thank you so much for your comment.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Nope. All right. Well, thanks, Amanda, for speaking up. Excellent. All right. We are going to move on to Board of Ed member comments. So I'm going to start over here. Anna, do you have anything you want to say?
Yes, I just wanted to say I love the shadowing ideas focused on specifically catering to the upcoming students' interests. It's very smart for, I think, increasing the comfort level for the 8th graders moving up. I think it's just a great idea.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo those remarks, except I noticed that both of these have F block, which is physics, so I feel really bad for the 8th grade.
Maybe you can give that input to Principal Lawson.
I know, they'll love it. It's a great time. And then secondly, I'd like to offer my congratulations to Stacy Benham for her service to this board. I know you had that brief hiatus and then came back to the board, right? Yep.
Yeah.
But thank you for all your service to the board and all you've done.
Thank you, Liam.
Actually, I would say the exact same thing. Thank
Yeah.
you, Stacy, for your time and energy and enthusiasm and and good luck to everyone that's on the candidate ballot next week or 2 weeks and see how how it comes out.
You will be missed, Stacy. Thank you. I'm glad you volunteered yourself because I was gonna nominate. Yeah, good luck, everybody.
That's great.
Same here. Thank you for your service. Sorry to see you go, but you know, jobs take precedence over other things, so for sure. Cabe had a legal issues seminar that went on for 3 hours last week that Lauren and I both attended. It covered new 40-hour sick leave, some other Supreme Court issues. It was very informative. There was a lot of information and it was very legal. I think it needs to be watered down so that board members can understand. We've already seen the impact of the 40-hour paid sick leave law in different areas. So stay tuned because there's probably more coming. The future webinars will include an AI webinar on November the 6th, which is 2 days after the election. And then the conference in November, just before Thanksgiving. So participate as much as you can. Thank you for Fall Fest. I think that looked like fun. I wish I had a kiddo at Gildersleeve so I could go and hang out.
It was fun.
Shuck corn and paint pumpkins and all those games that they came up with. That's the kind of play that we really need to see kids doing out every day. You know, I mean, I know that takes a lot of work and all the pumpkins and things, but that play-based learning is really just get out and play and learn how to get along. And that sometimes is the best way to learn how to get along.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it. So,
Thanks, Mel.
yeah.
I'm gonna jump over here, Karen.
Oh, sorry, I fell asleep.
No, that's
Been a long day, right? We talked about this. But again, Stacy, thank you for your service. Thank you for coming back when you did. That was a good service to me. And I've enjoyed learning all this stuff already. So if I'm back, I'm back. If I'm not, I enjoyed it anyway. And I will be at Cabe if you need me.
All right.
I'll take it through the 5th.
All right.
I did one of their webinars yesterday too.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so it was
I think that was the school climate one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that was long too.
Yeah, they go for about an hour and
It was like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you sign up for it and you can't do it, and
Yeah, they
can't do the
record
whole
it.
thing,
Yeah.
it's recorded, so you can always go back. Yeah.
So I enjoyed it.
Thank you for returning, and it's been an honor to serve alongside you. I've learned a lot from getting to work with you and sitting beside you. I just felt it was important to say that as we know, cuts have been made to the Department of Education. To anybody listening, this district has always stood by students receiving support from student services and special education. And I won't presume I speak for the board, but I would hope and believe that we will continue to stand by students that need that kind of support in this district. I also got to go to Fall Fest, and that was so much fun. I was manning the dancing station, but then they also had like the cozy corner where students could go and read. And I loved that they could select where they wanted to go and got to kind of have that agency as students. And it's true that the 4th graders were shucking and eating their raw corn and seeming to love it. That was fun to see. And I mean, I don't know, people said that they did that when they were kids as well, so that was fine. And then I'm looking forward to going to the Cape convention towards the end of the Cape conference towards the end of
Convention, whatever.
Stacy,
You
your
have
final
all been
board
very-
comment?
You have all been very kind and I have truly appreciated it. It's been such a learning experience for me. The last 4 years with a little hiatus in between, but truly such a collaborative board that I couldn't have asked for a better experience. So next, I study for a certification that I need for work and starting a house renovation project. So it may be a little task force. So thank you.
All right, two quick updates. The Meg, so one of you referenced the DRIP program earlier. You brought up the DRIP, the district repair and improvement program that's gonna hopefully eventually provide us with $78,000 or $80,000 annually to put towards capital improvements. You all know that was approved by the legislature. It's being held up. And so there was communication from the school and finance project to please advocate to the governor to ask for them to release this funding in their next bond meeting. So I just wanted to update you all that I did at their prompting from Lisa Hammersley. They had an email blank that you could then fill in. So I went through those steps to submit, and I copied in a little bit of my testimony about how this could potentially impact Portland and did send that off to the governor. So I'm hopeful that districts across the state will prevail on the governor to please release this funding that's already been allocated by the legislature. Because it really will have real impacts on our ability to make some of these smaller improvements in a more ongoing way. So the heads up about that. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention is that Meg didn't mention that she has been nominated by the CAVE Nominations Committee to serve as the next CAVE president. And so, and so this is the election will happen at the CAVE.
Say no.
It's what happens when you don't say no. That at the CAVE convention, on that first Friday night, they will, no one else is running. CAVE Meg is president-elect for CAVE. So it's very exciting and congratulations and thank you for your service.
It's humbling and it's scary all at the same time. And I have a very good team and it's not about me, it's about us. It's about the students and that's what it comes down to. And I didn't mean to scare you and think that we're not going to support special ed kids with, the NSBA take on 2026, but we will do whatever we have to do in this state, in this town to support all of our kids, the most vulnerable learners. And we're going to make it happen. So absolutely. So yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
So thanks, Meg, and congratulations and condolences. And Stacey, you really will be missed. We will miss you. And best of luck with everything and thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Meg. Is there a second? Seconded by Stacey. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned at 9:48.